Welcome back to the channel. This is Trinity Storm, and you're watching second and final part of What If Naruto Was Experimented by Apocalypse. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Not wasting no more time. Let's start the story.
The following morning, Naruto awoke to the scent of food filling the mansion. He scowled as he rose and went to the kitchen, where he discovered Tenten completing breakfast. He glanced at the clock, rubbed his eyes, and remarked, "It is 5:40 a.m. Tenten replied, "I know Guy-sensei had us get up at 4 every day. I am so used to it now that I can't sleep in." With a sigh, Naruto remarked, "You want some help?" Tenten replied, "Sure, fix the glasses. Breakfast is almost ready." After nodding and reaching for some orange juice in the refrigerator, Naruto paused, took a step back, and gazed at the trash before asking, "What happened to my booze?" Tenten replied, "I dumped them out. I don't want my sensei to be a drunk." "I guess I will have to make more," Naruto sighed. When he saw Tenten glaring at him with her hands on her hips and a knife embedded in the wall next to his head, she responded, "No, you will not." The expression on her face alarmed Naruto, who thought, "Oh my god, she's channeling my mother. Heaven help me." He went pale and waved his hand in front of him, attempting to calm the girl down. After appearing to calm down, Tenten hurried back to cooking after taking a whiff of the air and exclaiming, "Eat, the eggs are burning." Naruto sighed, distracted, and grabbed OJ's glasses. After placing the food on the table and waiting until Naruto, who was staring at her, took a bite, Tenten said, "Well, pretty good. The only thing I see is missing is what's behind you on the counter," Naruto remarked after taking his time chewing it. Looking perplexed, Tenten turned to see what he was talking about, but when she saw nothing, she turned back to face him and noticed a bowl of fresh strawberries on the table. Tenten swore and started eating, saying, "Hearty, har, har." With a sigh, Naruto concluded, "That was actually really good, Tenten. I think I might show you a few French meals Mom and Gambit taught me over the years." "Thanks," Tenten said, "so where can I put my stuff?" With a blink, Naruto questioned, "What stuff?" Tenten replied, "Well, when I got home last night I thought it over and it does not make sense for me to be at my place all the way across town and have to travel every morning, so I packed everything up and moved in last night and just slept in the library on the couch. I thought it would make sense for me to stay here while you teach me." It was Naruto who said, "You could have asked." According to Tenten, "I'm asking now, so can I stay here?" "Alright, you win," Naruto said, sighing as he looked at her and noticed the puppy eye jutsu she was giving him. With a smile on her face, Tenten inquired, "So what room is mine?" After saying, "I guess," Naruto swiftly turned around, extending his wrist blades, and sighed a moment later. He said, "Not wise, Kakashi." Kakashi then appeared, sitting on the counter with a cup of coffee in his hand, and said, "Not to worry, I will use a coaster." With his blades drawn, Naruto snarled and uttered, "So what's up, copycat?" Putting down the cup, Kakashi said, "Hello, who might you be?" "My name is Cash," Tenten said. "I see. Well, I'm Hitaki Kakashi and I came by to inform you both that there has been a slight change of plans in the mission details," Kakashi said, raising an eyebrow. With a scowl, Naruto said, "What's up?" According to Kakashi, yesterday a scroll arrived at the front gates and was left with the guards on duty. It was taken to the Hokage, who after reading it has decided to investigate what the scroll said. "It has been decided that you and your new teammate are to investigate the information on the scroll and notify Konoha if it's real." With a frown, Naruto questioned, "Why is though, something you're not telling us?" Kakashi nods as he says, "The scroll contained a video in it. The Hokage looked at it and immediately ordered for you to be the one to investigate it. Apparently the video showed basically the same thing as the video the Hokage saw all those years ago of you." "So you're saying someone is doing genetic manipulations of people?" Naruto asked, his eyes widening. Kakashi responded, "We don't know. All we know is it a small island in sea country and the Hokage believes with your own experience then you would be the best to determine exactly what's going on and deal with the problem. Human experimentation is not very well looked on here. The Hokage said for you to leave as soon as possible. The details are in this scroll. Well, I must be going. Both of you take care now. CYA." On his way out and left a scroll on the table. "So, do you want to come or stay here? The Hokage left it optional for you." Naruto handed her the scroll after reading it. Tenten read it and replied, "No, I'm your teammate, so I am going. The only problem is most of my supplies are packed from moving here and will take me a while to find." After putting his and her dishes in the dishwasher and guiding her out of the kitchen, Naruto remarked, "Follow me. I think I can fix that for now." They came to a halt outside the armory, and Naruto opened the door and entered, saying, "Come on, I think it's time to get you some new threads." Tenten trailed behind, asking for threads. Naruto replied, "Sorry, it's slang for cloths." I think we got some of the new outfits that will work for you, here we go. When he stopped in front of a huge room and Naruto replied. This is where most of the spare battle outfits are kept, but since no one else but me has been in this room, all these things are brand new, so go ahead and find you something to wear in this room, it don't matter what. I will be getting my weapons and then we can get yours as well. When he left her alone, Tenten began looking for a new look, and she looked like a child in a candy store. 10 minutes or so later, Naruto was sitting there with all of his weapons and dressed exactly as he had been when he was bidding his mother farewell. He had only the necessities in the village most of the time. As soon as Tenten entered the room, Naruto's eyes widened as he took in her appearance. At this point, she was wearing combat boots, black leather pants, and a black nanotech shirt with a V cut around the neck and a hole at the stomach that exposed her stomach as she circled around it and entered the pants. Along with the pants, she wore a crimson-red vest that was unbuttoned and could accommodate multiple items on top of the shirt. It was equipped with mesh body armor. Her hair had changed from being in buns to a single ponytail secured with an incredibly tiny, robust wire of steel industrial strength. She wore a red belt with an X-Man communicator on it and an elbow guard for both arms with a tiny spike on each side. Tenten smiled as Naruto tried to open his mouth and asked, "So how'd I look?" Tenten saw Naruto's stunned expression as she looked at him and noticed the new clothes he was wearing that he had never worn in the village. "Great, I think the look suits you. By the way, how did you get the belt buckle?" said Naruto, shaking his head at the end. Tenten nodded and continued, "I found your stash and took one from it and added it to this belt. You said I could get anything." Nods and says, "Right. Well, I got weapons on the table over here for you. I think all of them are the same things you usually carry. Since I got them all here in the village, I don't have time to train you in anything else right now, so go ahead and get ready while I take care of some final things." As he left the room without looking at the woman, she went and began to gather kunais, shurikens, exploding tags, first aid kits, and other commonplace items while Tenten giggled as he left, thinking, "That's the first time I saw him speechless. I got to keep this look." After exiting the armory, Naruto went to the war room, shut the door, and then proceeded to the computer to type some data. Suddenly, a static sound was heard, and he commanded, "Come in, War Rooms 2 and 1, it's Echo." After a short while, someone said, "Go ahead, Echo, this is Storm." "I may have a new lead on Apocalypse here, Storm," Naruto said. "The Hokage thinks the information Konoha recently received could be another lab for human experimentation. Similar to the one he used on me. They're sending me to look into it. I have one backup in case this turns out to be a trap. Cache as the codename I gave her. I want anyone who wants to put together a backup team to send here in case I need help, as this could be a trap." "I understood, Echo," Storm said. "We don't want you to lose control again, so you must be cautious, avoid taking any chances, and maintain your composure until you return or require assistance. I will have Cyclops and I prepare 2 teams and keep 1 team on standby. Is that all?" "Yes," Naruto replied. "I just had a bad feeling about this mission, and Logan always advised me to follow my gut. Regards, Storm." As he concluded the broadcast, he said, "Echo out." Tenten was waiting in the hallway when Naruto emerged, and he said, "I hope you're ready." Tenten replied, "Yeah, how long do you think it will take us to get there?" According to Naruto, about 2 hours. "What do you mean?" asked Tenten, blinking. "Since you have 3 days of sea travel, it will take you almost a week to get to Sea Country from here." As he led her down the hall, Naruto said, "You will see, come on." They soon arrived at a room called Hangar, where Tenten noticed a large black machine and inquired, "What's that?" "That's the X-Jet," added Naruto. "We could take it, but we're taking the Skyhopper because I want to enter as covertly as possible." With wide eyes, Tenten exclaimed, "Wait, you mean you got one of those that you told me about?" "Yeah," Naruto said, nodding. "I hope air sickness doesn't strike you." "Oh well." As he led her into a second hangar where she saw another machine similar to the black one, but this one was only about a fourth of the size of it, and Naruto climbed a set of stairs and typed a code on a keypad and the lid popped open and he grabbed a helmet and climbed in the pilot seat. As he put it on and said, "Are you coming?" After Tenten recovered from her shock, she rushed upstairs, spotted a second seat, climbed in, and took the helmet. Naruto then said, "Don't be surprised when things move back there. To keep you safe, the jet's automated safety features fasten a belt around you. All set?" With a stutter, Tenten said, "Sure." As the controls came to life, Naruto grinned and the lid closed. Tenten noticed that the room outside the jet had gone dark, but gradually a light appeared overhead. She looked around and saw something moving that was made of metal, and then she heard a strange noise as the jet began to shake. Naruto heard her thoughts of fear and responded, "Relax, it's safe, I promise." After Tenten calmed down a bit, she heard the jet eep as it began to ascend toward the light. "I hope this mission turns out okay. I don't want to see either of those kids hurt," the third Hokage said as he peered out the window in his office. His window shattered as a sonic boom was heard, and he thought, it must be Naruto. He saw several trees on the opposite side of the village rise up about 30 feet in the air as birds flew away from that area, and then he saw something fly away from that area very quickly. When she opened her eyes after a few moments without any death approaching, Tenten screamed as they shot off. She looked out the window and saw the ground fly by very quickly, and Naruto remarked, "See, I told you it would be okay." "Did you have to go so fast?" Tenten inquired. Not really, but I wanted to," Naruto remarked. Tenten, still clinging to her pant legs for dear life, shook her head. Naruto's eyes became cloudy and a mist began to cover the water in front of the aircraft as they approached the island, and he said, "Well, according to the computers, that island up ahead is the one we are looking for." So, a few hours after they had taken off, as they flew toward the far side of the island, Tenten, who had mostly calmed down, remained silent so as not to divert Naruto's attention. Naruto spotted a small canyon cove and carefully landed the skyhopper there. After they landed and disembarked, Naruto opened a side compartment, took a remote control, pressed a black button, and the jet vanished. Tenten asked, "Where is it?" With wide eyes when Tenten heard the sound of metal, Naruto raised his hand and knocked, saying, "It's still here, it just has a cloaking shield on it. Consider it a form of genjutsu." Tenten replied, "I swear these machines are at times better than any ninjutsu. Sometimes and others it's not." Naruto remarked. He produced 2 brown cloaks and gave one to her, saying, "Here." Naruto said, "Let's go toward that village we saw as we flew in, which is about 2 miles from here," after they had put it on check to see if there are any labs, oddities, or people going missing. Tenten inquired, "Why are people going missing?" "They need test subjects if it's human experimentation," Naruto remarked. "Let's go now," he said as he turned to leave. "Hey," Tenten said, "who made you leader?" Naruto grinned as he said, "You did, apprentice." Tenten scowled, thinking, "Smart ass," as Naruto put it. "I heard that." Tenten snarled but remained silent after they had been in the village for about 20 minutes. Naruto scowled and asked, "Okay, what's wrong with this village?" Then Tenten said, "Everyone's staring at us." An elderly woman in her 60s approached and inquired, "Where are the others and how did you escape?" "Please, where are they?" she said in a panicked tone. Stepping forward, Naruto uttered the words, "Whoa, slow down, what are you talking about?" "The sea monster came and abducted all the children and took them away," the woman said. "Tell us where they are, please. You must know." "Look," Naruto said, "we arrived on the island just now. We were fortunate enough to reach the island after our ship sank. We just discovered it and rested there last night." "What kind of sea monster were you referring to, please?" "A sea creature was spotted on the island's west side about a year ago," a man in his 30s stated. "It was on its way to an old beachside cabin. There is a girl who lives there with bandages on, and we think she was assisting the monster. Children from our village began going missing one by one after the day it was spotted. We have passed the cabin multiple times, but the girl has also vanished. However, occasionally we see the sea creature emerge from the water and make its way toward the cabin. The only information we have is that the girl claimed they were being taken to a prison before she vanished after we made her speak. Get out of here, please, before whatever it is gets you, please." "Exactly what did you mean by when you said you forced her to talk?" Naruto asked, his eyes darkening. "We beat her until her lips lost their elasticity," said another inebriated man, holding a bottle of sake. "She has some unsightly skin condition, which is why she is wearing those bandages. They had her blood on them, so I had to burn my clothes afterward because I was so terrified of getting it." Tenten squinted, then leapt back as a lightning strike struck the sake bottle, causing it to burst into flames, burning the man, who screamed as he collapsed to the ground, clutching his face and hands. "It seems Kami does not like the idea of you attacking children," Naruto remarked. "Maybe he used whatever that poor girl had to knock you down. If what you said is accurate, the sea monster might have been attempting to kidnap her as well. You simply mistreated a helpless girl who might have told you where the kids were because she might have run away, but it's more likely that one of you, like that man, killed her. If this is how you treat kids, I think I'd rather take my chances with the sea monster." He turned and left the village behind, saying, "Come on, Cash, let's find a way out of here." Tenten followed and asked, "So what do you think?" after they had left. "I believe our sea monster is actually someone who has been experimented on," said Naruto. Scowling, he walked over and slung his arm in front of a tree, slicing it as it began to fall. Naruto then had a block form an ice chute beneath the tree, which slid into the water. "The girl might have been one, too?" Tenten asked, looking perplexed. "What's that for?" "Hop on and you will see," Naruto said as he leapt on and proceeded to walk the entire length of the now floating tree, stopping every few feet to plant a kunai on either side of the log. Naruto said, Hold on to the tree with chakra and hold onto a tree limb also, we're about to move, as Tenten leapt over and landed on it. Tenten was rapidly picking up on the idea that when Naruto said something foolish like that, there was a reason for it following his instructions. She soon received her response when the tree began to move through the water surrounding the island. You see anything on the island that looks like it might be good to investigate? Naruto asked, surveying the terrain. As they made their way around the island, Tenten said, the only thing I can see that shows any sign of anyone is the village we already went to and the cabin they talked about. That's all I see as well, scowled Naruto. Then we'll have to check out that cabin, I suppose. Why did we not just head there first after we left the village? Why make this makeshift raft and then circle the island? Tenten asked, glancing at Naruto. I am scared of what we will find when we get there. Naruto sighed. I wanted to calm down after hearing that guy's words because I had the impression that they had done more than they had told her, and if I was correct, I would kill them all. It's okay. I understand, Tenten said, glancing at the island. You're right, but you're missing something. After glancing at her, Naruto questioned, what's that? With a sparkle in her eye, Tenten drew a kunai and remarked, that is if there is anything left of them after I get done with them. After giving her a quick glance, Naruto grinned and said, thanks. Tenten questioned, for what? As he led the log toward the island's west, Naruto shook his head and remarked, nothing, old cabin, here we come. No problem, Naruto. I understand how personal this must be for you, Tenten said, grinning at him on one point. The Hokage was correct. You do appear content when discussing your family when I don't want you to. At least you can't hear what I'm thinking. Rewind. After leaving Naruto's place, Tenten was on her way to her own when the Hokage approached her and inquired, how are you today, Tenten? Hokage-sama, what are you doing here? Tenten said, bowing. The third laughed and replied, relax, I just thought I would take a walk around the village before heading home today, so don't be so formal, just call me Sarutobi. I couldn't, Hokage-sama, Tenten said. Since you are our village's leader and most influential individual, you ought to be respected. But I am still a person, Tenten. The third sighed. You must understand that people are not gods or demons because they are all human. Regardless of how strong, different, or weak they may be, sometimes all it takes to feel alive is to laugh and throw their feet up. After hearing him out, Tenten remarked, I think I understand, Sarutobi-sama. The third laughed and remarked, I guess it's a beginning. There are moments when I'm happy that Konoha has people like Echo. He respects me only when it is absolutely necessary. Other than that, he calls me Gigi when we are alone. Yeah, he has a way for names, Tenten said, laughing at the nickname he refers to me as Cash. The third glanced at her and said, oh really, why? Tenten explained, it's because he used his abilities to stack all of my weapons. When he first met me it was 3 times as tall as me. Sir, he gave me the codename Cash because he claims that I am a weapons cache. Well, I think it suits you, the third said, nodding. I could use it as your name on your official registration. As he gazed at her, he said, I have done the same thing for Echo. Tenten replied, yeah, I like his codename but I think his real name suits him better. Yes, Naruto is a pretty unusual name, the third person said. It could refer to a Maelstrom or a ramen topping. The third said, calm down, I've known him since the day he was born. As Tenten's eyes widened for a moment, he and his parents were alive when I knew them. He must therefore have a good deal of faith in you to reveal his true name. There is only one other person who is certain of it besides me, although I won't verify it. The clan heads believe they are aware of it, but nobody else is. After calming down, Tenten inquired, who were his parents? The third said, I'm not sure. For some reason, it's personal to him. When he wants to trust you, he will. Tenten looked at him and said, he trusts me but not completely, and he can just read my mind to prepare for anything I ask, so it's not fair. I can give you a solution to that issue, but I would only use it if you truly don't want him to hear what you're thinking, the third person said. He struggles with trust, and if you cut off one of his avenues for attempting to comprehend you, he may begin to distance himself from you for a number of reasons. He doesn't trust Konoha, and he fears getting hurt. He seems to be shutting himself off more and more every day, which is why I granted your request to prevent him from doing so. I can practically guarantee that you won't regain the trust he has given you, so I trust you not to betray it. I understand, Tenten sighed. In fact, I believe I know him better than that. With a sigh, the third person said, well, I must be going. Tenten replied, wait, what is the way to keep him out of my head? As the third put it, oh that, why do you want to know? Hey, Tenten said, I girl wants her privacy. The third laughed and remarked, oh, it's really that easy. Simply direct your chakra toward your temples. It's an excellent method for eliminating hangovers and small mind readers. I have to leave. As he began to leave, he said, see you around, Cash. Wait, what is the other reason you agreed to put me on a team with him? Tenten asked after giving his words some thought. There must be a more compelling reason than that to prevent him from shutting down, since you don't worry about hunter ninjas and they are frequently closed off. Why this time? I see that you have a habit of always looking underneath. The third person said you must have a genetic component to it. I suppose you could say that I want to make sure he's content because he only seems content when he talks about his family. He began to leave, saying, I thought you might someday fill that role for him. When she looked back up and saw that the third was gone, Tenten scowled and remarked, Hey, you're just playing matchmaker. Final flashback. Naruto remarked, It seems someone has been here recently, as they arrived at the old cabin. Tenten inquired, What makes you so sure? Naruto said, Someone has been cleaning fish and hiding the remains here. He pointed to 3 fresh-looking fish heads as he walked around the house to the side and moved a bush with his hand. Tenten questioned, So what should we do? Frowning, Naruto remarked, Since we also need to rest, I believe we should set up camp a short distance away and take up positions around the house for surveillance. What are your thoughts? Sounds like our only option. Tenten said, I'll take the first watch while you go ahead and set up camp. No, said Naruto, after we make camp together, I'll take first watch after you've had some time to rest. We'll switch places every 10 hours. Sleeping for 8 hours and cooking for 2 hours each will allow us to share and talk about any changes. What are your thoughts? Tenten said, All right, let's set up camp. With a frown. Without noticing the girls sitting in the water close to the cabin, they both hurried off to set up camp and swam away. Setting up camp with a smokeless fire and catching and eating some fish from a nearby stream took Naruto and Tenten approximately an hour. After they finished eating in silence, Naruto stood up and said, Listen, Tenten, if you need assistance, hit the radio on your belt. Don't fight alone. I don't want to see you suffer harm. I'll be here in a moment, using my abilities to assist you in combat. Tenten saw the worry on his face and responded, Don't worry, I'm a big girl and can take care of myself, but I will listen to you. Tenten rests on her sleeping bag and eventually falls asleep after Naruto nods and walks away. Naruto proceeded to stand in a tree with a view of the house and waited. Tenten was awakened approximately 4 hours later by the sound of a twig snapping, and she looked around, wondering, who could that be? Naruto is too young. She noticed a bush trembling and said, I don't see or feel anyone's chakra. Wait, what's that? It must be a rabbit or some other small animal, she thought as she approached it slowly, holding a kunai and looking around before slowly reaching for the bush to push it aside. As she jerked the bush in an attempt to flush the animal out, she said, Looks like we won't be having fish. She tried to scream but was unable to do so because she could feel her body getting rigid as a snake sprang out and bit her in the neck. Her eyes widened when she saw someone slowly blending out of the ground. It was Orochimaru, the snake Sanin himself. Well, what do we have here? Orochimaru asked. I am the only leaf ninja. I wonder why you are here out of all the places. I suppose my little ruse was successful, but I wanted Echo, the boy. I suppose I'll use you to get him since I was informed he was also present. Tenten felt someone grab her by the arms and begin carrying her away over their shoulder as they said, Take her to the doctor. As she was being pulled away, Tenten cried out in her mind, Help, Naruto, help, can you hear me? Help. While all of this was going on, Naruto noticed a girl with fish scales and fins slowly emerging from the water. He watched as her fins retracted into her skin, gradually changing her appearance to one that was more normal but still having some unusual fin spots. As he watched her make her way to the house, Naruto thought, So I was right. However, she stopped at the door and said, You might as well come in. I noticed you and the girl, she said as she entered. After dropping to the ground below, Naruto thought, Well, that was interesting, and proceeded to the house. The girl had already bandaged her skin when he entered, and she said, So you're Echo? With narrowed eyes, Naruto questioned, How do you know that? The girl pulled out a scroll that was in a plastic tube to keep it dry and gave it to him, saying, I was told to give this to you when you arrived. Naruto read the scroll after obtaining it. Hi Echo. I'm happy you agreed to come here, but you have to turn yourself into this girl, who will take you to my base, or your teammate will be killed. When the time came, Naruto used slip to vanish and then reappear, saying, Tenten, can you hear me, Tenten? He looked around, but he never finished reading the rest. When he noticed she was gone, he pressed the radio button and uttered the words, Echo to Cash, come in Cash. Hello my dear Echo, I see you must have gotten my note by now, said a voice on the radio in a menacing hiss. Naruto uttered the words, Who is this? The individual said, Oh, forgive me for not introducing myself. I am the snake Sanin Orochimaru. With narrowed eyes, Naruto asked, Where is Cash and what do you want, Orochimaru? Orochimaru chuckled as he said, Hee, the girl. You could say she is here in my little lab as a guest. I had originally only wanted you since you and those special abilities of yours have caught my eye. But I am always looking for new little lab rats, and I think this little girl would make a fine one now. If you don't want the girl to die, you will go back and do as the letter said. You have 1 hour and don't try calling for help or do anything suspicious. I have you being watched even now by my summons. Naruto replied, wait, how do you know about me and how do you know how to use this radio? All he could hear was silence, so he got angry and slammed his fist into a tree, thinking, you will die. Snake, you will die. He turned and began to walk back to the cabin, flipping the lid of his belt buckle, pressing a button inside, and then closing it again. A computer inside the war room came to life as he was making his way back to the cabin. The central computer flashed, and a voice said, War Room 1 here, Echo, report. When the relay to the X mansion in Konoha abruptly came to life, Jean, Storm, Gambit, and Rogue were all sitting in the war room back at the X mansion, and they all tensed touching the computer. Jean said, War Room 1 here, Echo, report. There was a brief period of silence before they heard, come in the cache. Echo to the cache. Echo to the cache. Hi, Echo, my love, I assume you have received my note by now. Who is this? Please pardon me for failing to introduce myself. I am Orochimaru, the snake Sanin. Orochimaru, what do you want? Where is Cash? The girl, hee. You could say that she is a visitor to my small laboratory. I was initially only interested in you because of your unique abilities, but I'm constantly searching for new lab rats. And I think this young girl would make a good one. You will now go back and follow the letter's instructions. If you don't want the girl to die, you have an hour. So don't try to call for assistance or act strangely. I'm still keeping an eye on you with my summons. Hold on. How did you find out about me and how do you operate this radio? After listening to it, every X-Man had a furious expression on their face as the message began to repeat and Storm declared, we must inform the professor. Who's this Cash person? Rogue inquired. Jean replied, I don't know, he never mentioned her when I talked to him. I think she might be his lady friend, Gambit remarked. My son has a girlfriend and he hasn't told me. I'm going to kill him, Rogue said with a scowl. Jean replied, calm down, Rogue, we need to inform the professor and find out what he wants us to do. As she glanced around, Rogue nodded and questioned, wait, where's Storm? Gambit replied, she already left, most likely to inform the professor. Naruto is back. He entered the cabin, picked up the scroll, and read it cover to cover. After removing his weapons and placing them on a table, he sighed and said, fine. He then placed his hand behind his back. The girl said, I'm sorry, but I have no choice. They promised me they would release me and turn me back human if I did this. She then placed a tag on his neck, foot, and arms. With his arms and legs not responding and his neck not turning, Naruto remarked, you will never be back to normal again. Once someone changes a person as much as they have you, it is impossible to fix it now that I have these tags on. What now? The young lady stated, you are to wait here while I go and signal for the boat. After hearing her go, Naruto scowled and tried to use his abilities, reasoning that the tag on my neck must be blocking the signals to my body. The only thing I have is telepathy, and even that is not much use right now. He felt someone strike him in the back of the neck and let out a painful scream as the cabin door opened and he heard a male voice say, Nighty, night. Smirking, Naruto asked, what was that? Gosh, his neck feels like steel, the man remarked. It's fortunate that the doctor gave us this, he said, drawing a needle and inserting it into Naruto's arm. Stupid asses, sedatives don't work on me because I become immune to them, Naruto thought. I suppose I can comply in order to save Tenten, he said, pretending to faint as his body gave way. Damn, how much does he weigh? He said as he felt 2 pairs of hands grab him, heard one grunt, and felt his feet drag across sand and then some water before being hauled onto a boat and then dropped hard. Then he heard a motor start up and start to move away, and it took all he had not to grunt in pain. Naruto heard the motor cut off about an hour later, felt the boat shift as it struck something, and realized it must have been a dock. He felt like he was being lifted and dragged, but a moment later he was dropped on the dock's wood, and he heard one of the men say, stay here with the boat, bitch. He slapped the girl across the face and said, you're not needed until later. In his mind, Naruto said, that's another one to die. Then he felt himself being lifted up and pulled away once more. He entered a room with multiple lights a few minutes later, as he could see the brightness through his eyelids, and then felt a hard slap against his back, tugging his arms and legs to either side, and then feeling something encircle his neck, arms, and legs. Naruto recognized the voice and heard a sickening laugh as Orochimaru said, you may leave us. He heard footsteps leaving, felt someone pull his shirt up over his stomach, and then felt another stab wound to his arm as an unfamiliar voice said, I don't see any signs of the seal you notified me about. and this should wake him in a few minutes, Orochimaru-sama. After waiting about 4 minutes, Naruto groaned and slowly opened his eyes. Looking around as much as he could while still neck-bound, he saw that he was in a rock cave with lights everywhere, and that a tall, black-haired, pale-skinned man with yellow eyes was staring at him. Next to the man was another man with gray hair and a gray shirt with a lab coat over it. "Where is Cash?" asked Naruto. "Oh, my dear Echo, ever since my spies were informed about your return by Danzo, I have been very interested in seeing you," Orochimaru said as he stepped forward. "I'm constantly searching for more practical tools, and since I've heard about the unique skills you employ on a daily basis, I figured I'd try to replicate what has been done to you now that I know who you are. Boy, I am aware that your parents Namikaze did not give you any talent." With a growl, Naruto uttered, "Sorry, but you got the wrong guy." With a wide smile, Orochimaru said, "I don't think so, boy. Actually, I believe I know exactly how to handle you, doctor." Then Naruto screamed, "Where the hell did you get that?" after seeing something he instantly recognized. "My spies found it in Danzo's possession along with a scroll detailing what it does," Orochimaru said with an evil smile. "I have to admit that my interest in you grew even more after learning about it." When the object was put around Naruto's neck, he looked at Orochimaru and said, "I will kill you, Orochimaru." Very slowly and painfully, Orochimaru then held up a small control and pressed a button, causing Naruto to scream as his entire body was shocked before he passed out. The doctor asked Orochimaru, "What exactly is that device, Orochimaru-sama?" as Naruto passed out. "It's known as a mutant slave collar," Orochimaru stated. "It prevents him from using any of his skills and gives me the ability to torture him whenever I want. I have to wait until the boy is no longer useful, but I must admit that if I had another one, I would disassemble it and recreate it. You can go ahead, doctor. I expect results, and I'll be back in 2 weeks," he said as he departed. The girl approached Orochimaru as he was leaving and asked, "Orochimaru-sama, when can I be changed back human?" After a few moments of staring at her, Orochimaru said, "When I have finished making sure it will work." He handed her the control and said, "I don't want to lose my favorite little pet." He also advised her to return the item to the doctor and advise him to exercise caution, as he would see him in 2 months. As he departed, he said, "I need to check on some other projects." "Pardon me, Amachi-sama, but," the girl said as she bowed and approached the doctor. "Leave, I do not wish to be disturbed," Amachi said, slapping her across the face. After saying, "Sorry, Amachi-sama," and bowing, the girl walked away from the doctor, looked at the object in her hand, threw it across the cave, and ran down the tunnel until she reached the water cove. She then jumped into it and started to swim away while crying. The Sandaime was working on paperwork in his office the following day when a body flew through the door and multiple people entered. The shout coming from the other side of the door said, "I'm sorry people, but you can't see the Hokage without an appointment." Sandaime said, "What's going on here and why have you barged into my office like this?" after glancing at them and identifying a few as X-Men. As he saw Xavier floating into the office in a metal chair, a voice at the door said, "Forgive Rogue Saratobi, but since her son is in danger she's having trouble showing restraint." "What are you talking about?" asked the third. Xavier stated, "We received an emergency broadcast from Echo late last night. Let me play it," he said, pressing a button, and the third person heard, "Come in the cache. Echo to the cache. Echo to the cache." "Hi, Echo, I assume you have received my note by now." "Who is this? I apologize for not introducing myself. My name is Orochimaru, the Snake Sanin." "Orochimaru, what do you want? Where is Cash? I had originally only wanted you because of your unique abilities, but I am always looking for new lab rats, and I think this little girl would make a fine one now. If you don't want the girl to die, you will go back and follow the letter's instructions. You have an hour to do so, and don't try to call for help or do anything suspicious. I have you under observation even now because of my summons." "Hold on, how did you find out about me and how do you operate this radio?" "My god, Orochimaru has Tenten and is using her to get Echo," the third said, going pale. "I must send a team to pursue them." "That's why we're here," Rogue said, "in order to save them and murder this Orochimaru man. We need to know the precise location of his mission as well as the identity of this Cash person." "I'm sorry, but," the third said, glancing around the office. "I would like you, Wolverine, Gambit, Rogue, Jean, and Magneto to take the X-Jet and follow Echo's Skyhopper transponder," Xavier said to Storm. "Cyclops, Iceman, Jubilee. For the time being, I want you all to go around the village and gather any supplies we will need for the mansion. Beast, Nightcrawler, and I will remain at the mansion while we try to find Echo and prepare everything for your return. I can't contract him right now because whatever happened on the mission is preventing him from using his mental abilities. which means he's either unconscious or someone has managed to neutralize them. Either choice is terrible until this issue is resolved. We will remain here. I would recommend having Storm's team arrive here in an hour if you would like to send a team. Go. With the exception of Xavier, everyone turned and departed. What are you doing? Asked the third after glancing at him. He is an X-Men, and according to your laws, we are just civilians searching for a family member. I know you were going to say that you can't tell us because he is a ninja in your village, but he is also an X-Men. Xavier said you have two options. Assist us or go it alone, but both will take longer than our strategies, and since time is of the essence, it could mean the difference between Echo and Cash's lives. He turned his chair and floated away, saying, if you want to send anyone after them to help, have them at our mansion in less than an hour or they will be left behind. I hate it, but he's right, we don't have time to argue right now, the third person mused. He said as he started swiftly obtaining the individuals he desired. I'm Nightcrawler, he said, startling everyone when he emerged from the house an hour later. I need you all to hold hands and one of you to touch my arm and I can get you all to the X-Jet fast. Standing there, Kakashi said, you heard him, do it. After glancing at Kakashi, Anko remarked, you sure, Kakashi? All right, said Kakashi, I'm going out without you all. I assume he's taking us to the underground base because I recognize his powers as being similar to Echo's. He took Nightcrawler's arm as Nightcrawler nodded. They vanished and then reappeared in a large room, where Beast, operating some controls, said, our most honored and humbled guest. Asuma tossed a cigarette aside, walked over, and grabbed Kakashi's hand as he grabbed Kurenai Anko's side and grabbed Kurenai's arm. I apologize for being direct, but the rest of your team is already waiting for you when you climb the ramp to the Black Jet. Anko was about to respond after giving him a quick glance when Kakashi inquired, has there been any word on Echo or Cash? Not since the initial transmission that is constantly repeating between Echo and this Orochimaru guy, Beast said, glancing at him. Let's go, Anko said, cracking her knuckles at the mention of Orochimaru as she made her way to the ramp. She said, I have a snake to kill. Kakashi trailed closely behind. What's up with Kakashi? Asuma asked. Raising an eyebrow, he appears to be more driven than I have ever observed. It was both funny and unsettling that he told Sasuke to get lost. Kurenai nods as she boards the aircraft and reflects. Flashback after being summoned to the Hokage office to learn that the two-man team of Echo and someone named Cash had run into Orochimaru and were thought to be held captive. Asuma, Anko, and Kurenai were running toward the Memorial Stone training ground where Kakashi always trained in the hopes of finding him. Kakashi looked up from his book as Sasuke performed a Kaden Jutsu as they landed in the field and raised an eyebrow. Kakashi inquired, what's up? We have an S-rank search and rescue mission. Asuma stated one member of the two-person team who encountered an S-class missing nin has been confirmed captured, and the other is thought to have been taken prisoner. We are expected to meet the rest of our team at Echo's place in about 20 minutes. The Hokage advised being ready for full-scale combat. With a sick feeling in his stomach, Kakashi got up and put his book away, asking, who are the two-man team and who's the missing nin? It's Echo and someone named Cash, Kurenai said regarding the missing nin. It's Orochimaru, Anko said. It was Kakashi who shouted, Sasuke, trainings are cancelled until further notice. What? Sasuke asked, glancing at Kakashi. Echo, the loser, is to blame for his and his teammates' capture in any case. They are both a couple of nobodies. Shut the fuck up, you spoiled little bastard, Kakashi said, releasing massive amounts of ki as he slammed Sasuke into a tree with his fist beneath his ribcage. Everyone heard several ribs break and Sasuke cough up blood. What if your clan was killed by your brother? I believe he left too many people alive. If this is how you treat people. He turned to the other shocked people and said, I will meet you there, after I get back. I am resigning as you sensei, so go home. Cry your eyes out about Itachi. Jerk yourself off while mentally cheering yourself on, or whatever you need to do, so fucking piss off, he said, leaving in a swirl of leaves. After checking on Sasuke, Asuma said, I will drop him off at the hospital and meet you there. Final flashback. 3 women and 3 men were on board when they boarded, and one of them, holding a phoenix on her chest, said, please sit down and hold on. The seats will hold you in place during the journey. When was the last time you heard from them? Inquired Kakashi. Late last evening, Jean said we had to wait for Magneto to reach our location before we could arrive, so we would have arrived sooner. After sitting down, Asuma inquired, who are you all? Once we are airborne, we will talk about it, Storm stated. Is everyone seated? She asked, turning around. Yeah, Jean replied. What do you mean airborne? Inquired Anko. Magneto replied, if I know Echo then I say a lot of windows have recently been broken. Yeah, Windows broke all over the village and there was a loud boom. Asuma said, "Are you implying that Echo was the cause of that?" "Yeah, he has a thing about going supersonic on takeoff," Rogue said before we made a compromise. "He used to do it when landing as well anyway. Let's move on, my son needs to be saved." The Konoha ninja all sat with wide eyes as they were literally going into the air, and when they turned around, they saw that they were about 100 feet above the village. Storm said, "Right, hold on." Suddenly, everyone felt the jet lift off as they flew out of the hangar bay slowly, just like in the days before, when the land was rising and the animals were running. When Gambit uttered the words, "Let's go already," everyone felt the jet take off and quickly disappear. "How fast are we moving?" Asuma asked, gaping. According to Storm, around 210 miles per hour. When everyone had stopped staring at that, Magneto stood up and walked over to where Jean was, saying, "You can move around but don't touch anything." Asuma replied, "You said you would tell us who you were once we were airborne." "It's on autopilot," said Storm, getting up and touching a few controls. "Storm is my codename, and I am this team's leader. Rogue is the woman next to me. Gambit, her fiancé copyright, is behind her. Phoenix is at the computer over there, and Magneto is behind her." As she observed Logan moving back and forth, she thought, "The man who is pacing a hole in the floor in Wolverine." Asuma replied, "I am Asuma, current leader of our team. Beside me is Kurenai. The woman in the trenchcoat is Anko and the man Thier is." Everyone turned to look at Jean when she said, "Hitaki Kakashi." Kakashi inquired, "How did you know? You have an A-level security clearance at the mansion," Jean said. As Jean read, "Codename Cash," a screen appeared on the side to show everyone her appearance. I pulled up the info on who had clearance to try and figure out who this Cash person is, and I found it. She has brown eyes and hair and is Echo's age, also referred to as Konoha's weapon mistress. She appears to have needed medical attention after suffering an injury in the danger room not long ago. "Well, I'm not pregnant, and all of my blood tests showed no infections, which is good." "That's interesting, then," Kakashi exclaimed. "What?" "Echo placed X-level restrictions on some information about Cash." Jean stated, "Even Cash doesn't seem to have access to that information, which makes it strange that he would do that." "What kind of crap is that?" Anko asked. "Why is there information available to him that she does not?" Says Kakashi. "Slow down, Anko. I was the one who told Echo about it, so I know what they're talking about." "Why would you give someone else information on a genin?" Kakashi, Kurenai asked, glancing at Kakashi. With a sigh, Kakashi said, "Because she is my daughter." The Konoha nins all gaped. "Daughter," Anko said. "But how?" Kakashi murmured. "Long story short, I was in Anbu. She was born shortly before the Kyuubi attack. Her mother passed away due to complications, and since her godparents, Echo's parents, passed away during the Kyuubi attack, and I was constantly out of the village on missions. Afterwards I had no one to trust, so I put her up for adoption. I never told her because I am a failure as a father. The only reason I told Echo was because I was with them during a conversation when it came up, and he used his unique abilities to find out the truth and asked me about it later." "You don't have to explain it to us, Kakashi, we understand," Asuma said, casting a sorrowful glance at Kakashi. As she glanced at Rogue, Anko remarked, "Wait, if this Gaki's parents died, then you were his adopted mother?" "Yes," said Rogue. "Have you both found anything yet?" "No," Magneto replied. Jean remarked, "I'm barely picking up anything. It's only discomfort. It's Echo, but I can tell he's still alive because something is largely preventing him from using his powers." Kurenai inquired, "How can you know that?" "I'm telepathic," Jean said. "Like Echo, I can read people's thoughts, but I'm much stronger." Hearing this, Kurenai scowled and questioned, "What can the rest of you do?" "Something's wrong," said Magneto, scowling. Everybody looked at him, and Rogue questioned, "What?" Magneto replied, "If I did not know better, I would swear I was picking up large quantities of adamantium." "Where?" Jean inquired. An alarm sounded inside the jet as it completely stopped, frightening the Konoha ninjas for a brief moment. "What did he mean he's going to investigate, and why did he stop?" asked Anko as Magneto turned and walked to the back of the aircraft, saying, "I'm going to investigate." The X-jet took off like a bullet again as they saw Magneto flying away from it. Jean remarked, "Damn it, Magneto, we could have stopped the jet for you to get out instead of stopping it yourself." Stuttering, Anko said, "He can fly," Rogue replied. "If we don't find him on this island, we're heading to I say we follow Magneto." "Agreed," said Storm. "Wait," Asuma said. "What Adam was talking about, and why did he think it was more important than saving the two people we are attempting to save? Why would you all wait for him? What is so important about him?" "These claws are made of adamantium," Wolverine said, grabbing everyone's attention with his outstretched claws. "The child and I are the only two people on the planet who should own this metal." It's not a natural metal, it is made by mixing several different metals that are simply absent from your world because of their magnetic abilities. Magneto and Echo are the only two people who can sense this stuff from a distance of several miles, which is why waiting for him is so crucial. There are only two possibilities that come to mind when he claims that there is a lot of adamantium present, and neither is attractive, he said, drawing his claws back. Smiling, Enko said, "Remind me to have you over for some fun sometime." Magneto narrowed his eyes as he looked down on this as the two men dragged the girl on board the ship, and one of them kicked her. Magneto was flying toward the island when he noticed a boat with two men in it, each holding a fishing net, and he noticed a mutant in the net. Attracting the attention of all three, Magneto walked over to the men and said, "I must say, what do I find here but more pain and chaos to those who are different?" After hearing the voice, one of the men turned to face Magneto in the air and exclaimed, "Who the hell are you?" Magneto replied, "That depends. I am either your executioner or your hero, depending on which one of the three you are is which case I will follow." "I'm not afraid of you," the other man said, drawing a kunai. "Why don't you come fight me down here? I would regard you as my equal if we were to engage in combat," Magneto stated as a mere mortal. "I don't." The kunai in the man's neck flew up and entered his brain after saying, "Now die." As soon as he saw his partner die, the other man started making hand signals. Magneto then raised his hand, causing the net that was containing the girl to fly off of her and sever him in small pieces. When Magneto landed, the girl backed away and muttered, "Please don't hurt me." Magneto replied, "There is no need to fear me, child. I am here to help you. Tell me, what is your name?" After giving him a brief glance, the girl said, "Isarabi." A metal holster with an X on the side that Magneto recognized as the Naruto card holder floated up out of the girl's pocket as he nodded and glanced at her. "Tell me, where did you get this?" he asked, narrowing his eyes. "According to Isarabi, I found it," Magneto replied. "Don't lie to me, girl. Where is the boy who owned this?" With a terrified expression on her face, Isarabi said, "All right. He's being held captured by Dr. Amachi. He's got him and this girl in his lab." When Magneto became enraged, he yelled, "Tell me everything. Where, who, what?" Isarabi directed Magneto to the island and stated, "He's the one who did this to me. I was trying to escape when these men captured me again. He works for Orochimaru. They were getting ready to experiment on both him and the girl. He had this strange collar with writing on the side of it around the boy's neck. There was also this controller Orochimaru gave me to give to the doctor before he left, but I threw it in the cave and ran away to escape. That's all I know. Please don't kill me." She was a coward in the corner. Magneto replied, "You say this collar was around the boy's neck. What condition was the boy in?" Isarabi replied, He was tied down and passed out. I swear that's all I know. I don't know what they did with the girl since I only saw her once when they first brought her there." Magneto glanced at the child and replied, "You are going to do as I say. That control you talked about, I want you to go and retrieve it and bring it to me here. If you don't, I will kill you. Now go." With a terrified expression, Isarabi leapt into the water and started swimming in the direction of the island. Magneto was thinking, "A mutant slave collar. It can't be, but that is what it sounds like. If it is, then that explains why we can't detect him very well." Isarabi heard screaming as she returned to the cave. She crept into the room and saw that Naruto was still awake and bound to a table, while Amachi was staring with delight at a glass tank filled with liquid metal. Naruto was yelling, "When I get free, I am going to kill you very slowly. I am going to break every bone in your body, rip your spine out and shove it through your stomach as I set your skin on fire, and then I will pull the skin off and freeze the skin and pull it off as I feed it to you, and I will," while screaming like a lunatic. Isarabi looked at him, covered her ears, and was astounded by what she saw. She was so terrified that she turned and started running, pausing only to locate the controller before rushing out of there. Amachi turned and glared at Naruto and said, "Do shut up, boy. I must admit you are very interesting, but my new pet will be even interesting if it survives. That is. I was first surprised when I saw that your hand was made out of metal and I could not figure out how to break a sample off, but when I looked under it with a microscope I was very surprised to find mechanical reproducing cells made out of the metal. At first I thought that this must have been recently added to you, but by the fact the wound that is around where your hand was is several years old, I would say that this would have to be done way before that, so it made me wonder how could you grow normally with the metal. Then it dawned on me those mechanical cells adapted with your body, allowing your bone structure to grow. After I found that it was simple to go and trick the cells into believing that your body was growing Aegean into a Protean culture where it started to multiply, and now I have this," as he motioned toward the huge tank of liquid metal. "Where is Cash? Where is she?" inquired Naruto. Amachi laughed and replied, "You really don't know, boy. I would have assumed you already figured it out. My new pet, the one that is in that tank, is Cash." Something inside of Naruto snapped when he saw Tenten's figure barely inside the tank and yelled, "Tenten, "No, I will kill you for what you have done to her." Isarabi saw a strange-looking object in the water next to the boat where Magneto was swimming, and she saw a number of people on top of it. Magneto asked, "Well, do you have it?" "Yes, I got it and left quickly. I think Amachi is killing him slowly," Isarabi said, nodding. All eyes were on the girl, but Rogue was the only one who swooped down, grabbed her, pulled her out of the water, and said, "Tell me now what you mean." Isarabi said, "His hand, the flesh is completely gone from it, and it was a strange-looking metal on the bones, and then there was some kind of tank that had the same color metal in it, but it was moving. I swear I saw something inside the tank, but the boy's screams, they were terrifying. Please don't kill me. I did as you told me," with a voice that was afraid. "We won't hurt you, girl. I'm sorry, but he's my son now. Where is that remote you mentioned?" Rogue said, setting the girl down on the boat. All of the mutants went pale when Isarabi took it out of her pocket, and Wolverine exclaimed, "It can't be." Kakashi gave him a look and questioned, "What?" Gambit stated, "It's a mutant slave collar control. Anyone who has the collar on can be tortured, killed, or had all of their powers taken away by it. It's very painful. This is bad." As she got ready to turn it off, Rogue took over and remarked, "I hope we don't have a repeat of Geonosis." Asuma inquired, "What do you mean?" Gambit replied, "Don't worry about it. Turn it off so we can get him out of there." Rogue pushes the off button while nodding. Naruto was sitting on a table in the lab when he felt the control collar abruptly shut off. As his mental abilities came back, he was thinking, "Tenten, can you hear me? Are you still alive?" Tenten screamed in her head in agony, thinking, "Naruto, please, it hurts, please help me." After Naruto closed his eyes, Amachi said, "Orochimaru, you're back early, is everything okay?" As she watched Orochimaru enter. Orochimaru replied, "Yes, doctor. I just came to take the boy with me. I will leave the girl here for you to play with, so release him. As long as I have this, he won't be a problem." "Yes, Orochimaru," Amachi said as he approached and lifted Naruto off the ground. Orochimaru responded, "Release the tags on his as well, but leave the collar. I don't want to have to carry him." Amachi walked over and removed the 5 tags, saying, "Yes, of course, Orochimaru." Orochimaru disappeared as soon as they left, and Naruto stabbed Amachi in the ankles. He grinned and said, "Oh yes, I told you I would have my revenge, but first to take care of you, Tenten." He then looked at the metal inside the tank, controlled it to shatter, and advanced toward the area where he could because Magneto was with Tenten. A massive metal glob of liquid emerged as the X-Men were approaching the island, stopped in front of them, and gradually transformed into Naruto. It said, "Take this girl and go. I don't know what has happened to her, but please go. I will be along shortly. We need to get her to the mansion fast or she will die," Magneto said, scowling as he flew over and grabbed the girl. As he flew, he grabbed hold of the flying metal, forming a ball around himself and Tenten, and they both took off at unstoppable speeds in the direction of Konoha. "What of Echo?" Kakashi responded. "According to Jean, he's no longer Echo." Then Enko said, "What do you mean?" At that moment, as the island started to rise out of the ocean, the sky started to grow darker. Kurenai inquired, "What's happening?" "It's him, he's returned," Jean said. "I told you I would kill you, and I will do it very painfully." Naruto sprang forward, reaching out and grabbing Amachi's left thumb, freezing it solid, then snapping it off as Amachi started to scream. Amachi was crawling away with fear in his eyes as the island started to float. With an evil smile, Naruto said, "Oh, that was too quick." He then stopped, and the room began to creak and break as tiny metal senbons formed in the air. One of them shot out and struck Amachi's skin, causing him to scream as another one struck him every second, only deep enough to cut the skin, never posing a threat to life. Anko questioned the X-Men, him who, in Jean's words, Maelstrom. Kakashi inquired, "You mean Naruto?" "No, he is Maelstrom at the moment," Rogue remarked. "So this Echo kid has multiple personalities or something," Asuma remarked with a frown. "In a simple term, yes," Jean replied. Kakashi responded, "But why are you all acting scared right now? I mean, what is the difference between his personalities?" Rogue replied, "It starts back the day when the Sandaime came after we rescued Echo. Professor X talked the Thid into going and leaving him with us to help him with his new powers. The Third agreed, but after he left that day he closed himself off from everyone. He would only answer with one-word answers and do only what we asked. Finally, after 2 years we were able to get him back together enough where he opened up to us. It was tough, but over the next 5 years he turned into a normal mutant. Then came Geonosis." Looking at them, Asuma remarked, "You all talk about this place Geonosis in fear. What happened there? Why are you afraid of it?" Naruto laughed as he carved and peeled pieces of Amachi's body, which was screaming in agony all the time, back inside the island. He would then either freeze it or burn the skin on each strip he removed, creating a checkerboard pattern in the flesh. Outside, Jean glanced at the island and said, Geonosis was an island where they claimed mutants could come and live without fear of being hated or persecuted for being different. The professor thought it was too good to be true because up to then it had been a constant battle for survival. The professor decided to send a team there as tourists undercover to see if it was real. Storm stated, I was the leader of the team. My teammates were Rouge, Gambit, Wolverine, and Echo. Echo, Gambit and Rouge went in as a family and Wolverine and I went in as a couple. We got through the airport security and got to a hotel with 2 separate rooms. Everything seemed to be real the first day, and that night when we went to sleep our rooms had been rigged with knockout gas. When we awoke we all had been moved to prison camps and had slave collars on. It turned out the government of the island wanted a slave labor force to build Sentinels, mutant hunting and extermination machines. We worked for 3 days with around 2,000 other mutants who had came to the island not finding any way to escape. Then Echo and Wolverine came up with a plan. Their metal claws and blades are not actual powers, so they could still use them. They broke free one night, but security found out within 10 minutes and started to look for them. Amachi would have kept screaming under the torture inside the island, which was now a mile high in the air, but Naruto had taken his tongue out, burned it, and frozen the inside of his mouth to stop him from bleeding to death. He then pinned Amachi's tongue to his own ass with a senbon. Outside, Wolverine stated, Echo saw that the security was getting close, and if we could not get a message to the X-Men then the Sentinels would be finished and all mutants would soon be exterminated, so he told me to go on ahead while he drew security away. I cut his collar off and he cut mine off, and he flew into the air and began making fires to building and other things to draw everyone's attention. He fought for a while until around 30 Sentinels came and was able to capture him. I had, after several hours of looking, finally found a radio and was able to call for help. I then took out a patrol guard and took his cloths and went to sneak back into the holding area so I could try to find a way to free the other mutants. Gambit continued, while he was doing that the head military man on the island came and had all of us brought forward so he could make an example of what happened when we tried to revolt. He had Sentinels hold him as well as putting on a new slave collar, but this one was different. It amplified pain and neutralized any mutant power. Echo's healing abilities are actually not a mutant power anyways. As we were all watching, he had a Sentinel burn Echo's hand off, causing everyone to gasp. According to Kakashi, so that's what happened to it. Rogue said, you don't understand. Echo's bones are completely made out of metal like Wolverine's, which is indestructible. The problem is his healing factor kicked in and started to heal his hand. Echo had screamed out in pain because of it being amplified. The leader got pissed when the skin started to regrow, so he had it blown off again, and again, and again. Over 5 hours we watched as his hand continued to grow, and we could not do anything since we were all being held prisoner with Sentinels standing guard ready to kill us. Finally the leader had enough, so he sent one of his aide to go and get a special hydraulic coolant for the Sentinels. He then had a Sentinel go for 10 minutes never ending destroying the hand, and finally the metal started to warm up, and when it ended he shoved Echo's hand into the coolant, killing all the cells in his hand and making it unable to regrow. It was at that moment Echo snapped. It was when all the dark hatred he has as a child living in Konoha and all the hatred he had for Apocalypse and the hatred he had for the Sandame for leaving him came back and mixed with the hatred he had for the leader and Geonosis. Jean stated, Wolverine had finally located the man who had the slave controller and destroyed it, freeing everyone. Shortly after this, the X-Men and the Brotherhood arrived, intercepting the message as well and attacking. The mutants launched an immediate attack, but it was over in about 2 minutes. Naruto picked up Amachi's whimpering body inside the islands, looked him in the eyes, and said, I told you I would show you your death. He then grabbed one of Amachi's eyeballs and shoved it into his mouth before turning him around and putting his metal hand in his back, grabbing his spine, and yanking it out of his back. He then said, I was told once the brain can live for several moments without the body, now live forever. He then froze the man's brain and threw it against a wall, where it stabbed into the wall, and then he left the door and went down the hallway to the outside. Back outside, the wind increased and the island began to be constantly hit by lightning. Both the story they were hearing and what they were seeing made everyone frightened. Echo began to laugh, a sickening, sinister laugh. Gambit said, as it is now. The sky started to grow darker, the sky started to rain, flaming ice metal began to fly everywhere. Jean stated, I used my powers along with Magneto to form a protective barrier around all the mutants. Like this one, but 10 times bigger, Rogue claimed. He flew into the air as the entire island started to fly into the air. As the wind increased, he chuckled at the devastation. People outside the shield were suffering agonizing deaths everywhere you looked, but it wasn't enough. With his wrist blades out, he started to slip between the Sentinels and the humans. According to your village's history books that we have read, Minato Namikaze, the Yondaime Hokage, was known as the Yellow Flash because of his lightning-fast appearance, and lightning-fast kunais his son carried on the tradition that day. His son, you mean that Echo is, Kurenai, Anko, and Asuma all went wide-eyed. Kakashi stated, Echo's real name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, son of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki, former Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune and adopted son of Rogue here. At that moment, flaming hail was seen striking the island, turning everything on top to ash, and a figure was seen flying away from the island. The Naruto attack lasted precisely 23 minutes, Jin said. He murdered every sentinel and every regular person on the island. He broke the island into 10 pieces after it was over, sending 9 of them into the sea. After that, he had the final segment in which we flew the short distance to land on the mainland. He cried out in his head at that point and collapsed from exhaustion. After we got him home, the professor and I entered his head and, with his assistance, shut down the other personality. We taught him how to suppress his darker side in the hopes that it wouldn't happen again. News of the island of Geonosis devastation spread swiftly. The mutants who actually caused the destruction were the only ones on the island that day, and they all hailed him as a hero. The United Nations calling it an act of terror, he was held responsible for over 7,000 deaths when the bodies of those on the island we were on and those floating in the sea were counted because they didn't know who he was. They called him Maelstrom, the super mutant terrorist. Based on the description, it's Maelstrom, not Echo or Naruto, who's up there now, the mutant with only one idea in his head: retribution. For a few minutes, there was laughter as everyone watched the island explode and rain into the ocean, and then there was crying. Rogue then started to fly up to him, wrapped her arms around him, and held him for a few minutes before he passed out while whispering, "It's going to be okay. Shush, it's going to be okay." "He's out, and probably won't be up for a while," she said as she descended slowly and landed alongside the others. Asuma said, "We should go back," after giving him a pitying and terrified look. "What about her?" she asked, glancing at the girl who was mostly disregarded. "We'll bring her along," Jean stated. "Come on, kid, you're safe now." "I hope you are alright, Tenten. I promise after this I will tell you the truth." Kakashi muses as Isarabi, who appeared terrified, nods and slowly boards the aircraft with the others. 3 weeks have passed since the rescue crew returned to Konoha. The Hokage was not prepared for the report he received. All of the information was classified as SS rank secret by him, and the Konoha nins were forbidden from repeating the events for fear of being executed. The entire time, Naruto has been asleep, both physically and mentally depleted. Because of Kakashi, Sasuke was still in the hospital due to his injuries. He is still urinating blood at the moment. Despite being placed on leave, Kakashi hasn't been seen since the day they arrived back in Konoha. Wolverine has been drinking with Anko. Rogue and Gambit have been by Naruto's side at all times. Regarding Tenten, to put it mildly, that is intriguing. Flashback: Tenten was lying in a bed with IVs attached to her and a number of medical devices running to her at the moment. The only sound in the dark room was the machine beeping, and Kakashi was sleeping in the chair next to her bed. As he was ready to defend her, Kakashi slowly woke up and turned to face the figure holding her hand on the other side of her bed. "Who are you?" he asked. "Hello Kakashi, I'm Reload. Don't worry, Cash will be fine and awake by tomorrow," the man said as he turned around. With a frown, Kakashi questioned, "How can you be sure?" As he tapped her skin with a piece of metal, Reload said, "I know because it is my place to know she will awake, but she won't come out unchanged. Under her skin is now living metal. It looks normal, feels normal, but if you look..." Kakashi scowled and asked, "Will she really be okay?" After hearing the sound of metal on metal, Reload nodded and continued, "Yeah, think of it as body armor. Under the skin, weapons can cut her skin, but they will never be able to go past the skin to harm the organs inside. She will also have other benefits from this, but what I can't tell you, she will have to be trained to use it as well, and the only ones who can train her properly will be the X-Men. I must be going. Do me a favor, and when you go to tell her the truth, give her this scroll." As he gave the scroll to Kakashi. Kakashi inquired, "What is it?" "It's a letter from her mother, Rin, before she died." Reload pressed a button on his wrist, causing a portal to appear. He entered it and vanished. Jean entered and asked, "Kakashi, was there anyone else in here besides you and her?" As Kakashi gaped and studied the scroll. "Yeah," Kakashi replied, "some guy named Reload." Jean scowled and remarked, "I see, what did he want?" Kakashi remarked, "He instructed me to give her this scroll and gave me some information about what would happen to her now. It's from Tenten's mother. He says, how is that even possible?" Leaning against the wall, Jean remarked, "You heard about the time travel thing in between our worlds, right?" Jean said, "Reload is from 23 years in the future, based on what I was told by Cable, who is also from that era," and Kakashi nodded. "Other than the fact that he appeared once in our future, we don't actually know much about him. We do know that he is lethal in combat." After scowling, Kakashi questioned. Then why was he here? Why was he interested in my daughter? Jean said, I'm not sure. He also appears to be interested in Naruto, but only he knows why. Though most of my theories go from plausible to absurd, I could still come up with some. What did he say about her, anyway? He informed me that she now has living metal beneath her skin. Kakashi remarked, although weapons can cut her skin, they cannot reach her organs. He stated that she would possess additional skills, but he would not elaborate. He informed me that the X-Men are the only ones who could properly instruct her. Same as what I already determined. Jean sighed. However, I am aware of another thing. Kakashi inquired, what's that? According to Jean, it's bloodline. With wide eyes, Kakashi questioned, what do you mean? The cells that produced the living metal were initially derived from Naruto's body, Jean stated. They self-multiplied after the man who experimented on them managed to produce one. They are genetically predisposed to both his healing factor and the metal bonding. This implies that she will also recover from any injuries more quickly. Her monthly hit also occurred during her absence, but I anticipated this because I already had the data from her treatment here on the computer. When I had the medic droids test its cells, I found that it had altered her genetic code so that any offspring she has will also possess her abilities, though it's unclear how much depending on the father's identity and genetic makeup. They might be stronger or weaker, but here's the good news: its constituent metal is not merely any weak metal. It will be almost indestructible because it is the same as Naruto's and Wolverine. I thought the metal would only get that strong once it was heated and set, scowled Kakashi. Normally, you'd be correct, but you're forgetting the healing ability, Jean said. Since the healing ability is derived from cells that have already been heated and set, it makes it where the cells are already. So you're saying the energy of the Kyuubi is what saved her? Kakashi asked, his eyes widening as he realized. And Naruto, Jean said he would have passed away at the age of 3 if it weren't for that when he allowed Naruto to fall into our hands. Apocalypse made a mistake. You should go to bed now. When your daughter wakes up, you will need it to speak to her. Don't hope for a warm reception, but don't expect one either. Fight as long as you have life in you. Jean walks away after Kakashi nods. He then approaches the bed, places the scroll next to it, and says, I'm sorry, Tenten. Your life was better without me in it. The loss of your mother, your godparent, my sensei and his wife, a lot of friends, and my responsibility as an Anbu made me realize that I couldn't have provided you with the parental care you needed. I believed that the orphanage would have been a better option than I was, so once I was able to leave the Anbu, I stayed there in the hopes of dying someday. That way, you wouldn't think you had a coward for a father, but rather someone who committed suicide and died defending you. He kissed her forehead and sank back into the recliner chair, saying, I hope you never have to make the decision I did. He fell asleep after a few minutes. Tenten slowly sat up as she opened the scroll and read it after a hand slowly reached out and took it, holding it tightly as his snoring filled the room. To Tenten, if you are reading this, then I have passed on. I am sorry for not being there for you as you grew up, and I hope that someday you will find true happiness. I thought I was in love with a man once who at the time did not love me, while I ignored a man who loved me and I did not love. The man I did not love one day died protecting me and gave a final gift to the man I love. Your father, that gift was an eye, and it showed him that things in life are not always what they appear to be, and that sometimes you have to give in and take a chance. The chance lead to you being born. I don't know how good of a father he is to you, but he does love you. I know this is hard for me to say because I love you so much that it hurts, but the pain of crying over what you lose won't make it better. Sometimes the best thing you can do is let go. I know this does not make sense to you, or perhaps it does, but I just want you to know that whatever you do in life, I will always love you. I want you to find someone who makes you feel like living life to the fullest and hold on to them until the end. I could tell you more about your family and your history, but it's not worth it. I let go of my past for my happiness, and I never regretted it. I hope you can let go of the past of not having me and move on to true happiness. Rin. Love your mother. Tenten wiped away the tears from her eyes, glanced at the man sitting in the chair next to her bed, then put her head back down and fell asleep again. Finish the flashback. Is that the best you can do? Tenten asked Magneto as they entered the danger room. Hurry up. Shurikens, Sei, and Senbons soon blended in as Tenten snarled and extended her hand, forming a kunai of liquid metal in each hand as she threw them. She was panting and perspiring after about 40 minutes, at which point Magneto remarked, Good, that's enough for now. Nodding, Tenten said, Thank you, Magneto. Kakashi entered after Magneto nodded and departed, saying, So how are you doing, dear? Fine. How's the nuts? Tenten asked, grinning at him. Kakashi replied, Okay. I admit I deserved that the first time, but the rest of them was cruel. As she closed her eyes and all of the weapons she had created transformed back into metal, slid across the floor, and re-entered her body, Tenten grinned. According to Kakashi, I will never get used to that. I think it's cool, Tenten said. I mean, these so-called nanites react to my mental commands and can shape themselves into any kind of weapon I want. In order to give me a little power boost when I am low on chakra, they also store and produce chakra in each cell, which I can then absorb back into my body. Wolverine's has been teaching me how to use claws, Gambit's has been teaching me how to use a staff, and Magneto has been teaching me how to make weapons instinctively while using his power to restrict their movements so they can build faster. Additionally, I enjoy this, she says. It's just like my idol Tsunade-sama super strength, as her fist turns silver as she approaches what looks to be a building and punches it, sending an entire wall tumbling down. Sweating, Kakashi thought, I got off lucky. Rewind. When an exploding tag went off behind Kakashi's recliner chair, he leapt away from the explosion in search of danger, only to be kneed in the nuts as he fell to the ground. Tenten was standing there, staring at him, and saying, that was for my fist step, Dad. She kicked him in the stomach, saying, that was for my first cut. She then stomped on his chest, saying, that was for my first day at school. She then kicked him in the head, saying, that was for my first crush. As she picked him up, she looked at the man holding his face and nuts, clearly in pain, and said, this is for me. She kissed him on the head before kneeing him in the nuts once more. Tenten said, the past is the past. As he collapsed to his knees on the ground, I'm ready to give you another chance at my life and forgive you for not being there. You won't be telling me how to live my life. It's a one-time thing, although I don't have to follow your advice. I will pay attention to it. You can be my father. If you can agree with that, you can go to hell. If not, it's up to you, she said, glancing at him. Dad sounds good. Can you get me to a medic now? Kakashi said, panting as he fell to the side. He said, I think I taste my nuts. As she walked out of the room, Tenten grinned and said, walk it off. Finish the flashback. Has there been any changes yet? She asked, pausing as Tenten and Kakashi exited the danger room to glance down the corridors. With a sigh, Kakashi replied, no, he is doing well physically. It's all in his imagination. Xavier claimed that he was unable to find his way out of the place because he was lost in a storm. Phoenix and Xavier have both attempted to remove him from it, but to no avail. Tenten scowled as she made her way down the hallway to Naruto's room, where she discovered him sitting next to him in bed, looking pale, and she took his hand, looking at his face with sorrow in her eyes before saying in a voice that startled everyone, darkness, darkness, everywhere but no light to guide me by. As they all turned to face the man Kakashi recognizes in the corner, they ask, where's my light in the darkness? Rogue inquired, who are you and what are you doing here? The names are Reload. The man said, I came here to warn Cash and to help Echo, he said, glancing at both. According to Rogue, you can help my son, yes, but not alone. Reload said, I'll need Cash, Phoenix, and Xavier. As she cancelled it, Rogue slammed her communicator and said, I need the professor and Phoenix to Echo's room now. Tenten inquired, what is the warning for me? Wait until the others arrive. Reload said, then I'll tell you. Tenten nodded, and Kakashi stood next to her. Jean and Xavier showed up a short while later, and Xavier asked, who are you? As I mentioned, I am Reload. Reload said, I came to warn him and help him get out of his coma first. I'll issue the warning. Cash, is that something is about to happen that will force you to decide whether to save a person who could save many lives or lose someone who could save many. Both choices will be challenging. Both have the power to save and destroy innocent people at that moment. You have to decide what is best for you, not for the world. According to Tenten, I don't understand. You will, and soon. Reload said, here's why I asked for Xavier and Phoenix. I can help Echo get out of his coma. And I also have physical abilities. However, only one of us can enter his mind, and it will take the combined efforts of the three of us to prevent it from collapsing. While the one enters, Cash must be the one who enters, causing everyone to gasp. Why here? Xavier inquired, why not another person? In order for him to face Maelstrom, we will need to make him confront his past. Reload stated, she must be the one since, unlike everyone else here, she is unaware of his past. He is already accepted for who he is. He has protected her, so she hasn't. It will take all the strength Maelstrom has accumulated from Echo's fears if she can remain strong and demonstrate that she accepts him for who he is, regardless of his past, enabling us to permanently destroy him. Tenten said, I'll do it. After glancing at Naruto, I'll save him because he saved me. Okay, what do you need us to do? Jean sighed. Well, I need all three of us to form a pyramid around his bed, and Cash has to be in the center of the pyramid with Echo, Reload said, looking red in the face for a moment. How exactly am I supposed to be in the middle of the pyramid? Tenten inquired. That would be, she said, her eyes widening. Yes, you would have to sit on his lap. Reload said, I'll use my power to send you in and stabilize it. While Xavier and Phoenix will use theirs to open his mind, there is a time limit for you. You will be stuck there forever and die if you don't get out of his head before our energy runs out. Kakashi responded, Tenten, I know you want to help him, but it's too dangerous. Tenten climbed up on the bed and sat on his lap with a leg on each side, glaring at him and saying, this is one of those times I will listen but won't do what you tell me. Once she forms a mental link to me and each other, Reload stated she will be responsible for the remainder. Finding him in the midst of it, where he and Maelstrom are fighting, will require her to go through everything. Tenten, keep this in mind. Although it may be his mind, you can also control your own behavior because your mind is there. Let's go now. Tenten thought, here goes, as she entered the maze, and soon she was standing on a vast valley with a storm in the middle of the maze and a maze in front of her. Everyone nodded. Tenten immediately noticed something as she made her way through the maze. The left wall was blue, and the right was red. It seemed that wherever she went, the walls would change and stay the same, until she reached a mirror wall, which had been the first to change, and when she approached it, a mirror appeared behind her and one on each side. When Naruto appeared in the two mirrors on either side, Tenten felt as though the room had moved and he said, you have invaded our mind. Why have you come? Tenten wasn't sure why, but she was certain that these two identical looking people weren't the same. According to Tenten, I have come to help you, Naruto. That name is not me, I am too, they both said after scowling. Tenten remarked, then show me the real you. In your eyes, we are equal right now. They both said the truth can be seen in one mirror, the other is false. Both must be viewed, and either the truth or the lies must be destroyed. If you don't die first, you will see who we really are. And the end. At that moment, a red-haired woman sitting in a hospital bed was depicted in the mirror. In front of her a nurse entered carrying a newborn, and the woman said, take him away. The nurse paused and walked out of the room, saying, he's nothing to me. A nurse entered with a newborn in her arms, and the woman said, let me hold my son, one last time please. The nurse then handed the baby to the red-haired woman, who rocked him for a moment and kissed his head before she gradually passed away. The mirror behind her then revealed the same woman with red hair sitting in a hospital bed, looking weak and exhausted. When Tenten noticed that the second mirror was ending, she went to the first one, smashed it, and uttered the words, your parents passed away. My father has told me this. Following what seemed like hours of walking, Tenten saw another mirror and, as before, it formed around her. This time, the one on the right had a set of red clothes, while the one on the left had blue ones. Naruto vanished as well, and Tenten resumed her journey. In the front mirror, the Kyuubi was shown dying at the hands of the Yondaime, who called for Kakashi to bring him his son so he could say goodbye. In the rear mirror, the Kyuubi was sealed into a blonde baby, and the Yondaime apologized to his son. Neither of them spoke. She walked to the front one and destroyed it, and both vanished again. Tenten scowled until she recalled what she had heard her father say to Jean when she pretended to sleep, and then she resumed walking when she saw two enormous phoenixes fighting in the sky, one of them screaming, hurry Cash, time is running out. At that moment, Tenten started running in search of the way through, and as she ran, she came to a fork in the path, one on the right and one on the left. Naruto, who was wearing red, joined the one in blue, but Tenten noticed that this time, one of them was holding throwing cards with aces on them, while the other was holding deuces on his cards. You must solve our riddle in order to continue from here, they both said, to find out who is lying and who is telling the truth. You can ask just one question. Only the truth will be spoken by one of us, and only lies by the other of these routes. Only one leads to safety. Made the right decision to proceed. Now pose your query. If you were your opposite, which path would he say leads to safety? Tenten asked, smirking as he leaned forward in contemplation. The two of them said, the right path. Tenten nods. I chose the left. Then she starts running down it, but as she does, she notices that the walls begin to play a child's life. She saw him being beaten and attacked while running, being abducted, being experimented on, and feeling abandoned, and then training, school, and Geonosis, where his mind finally broke. My God, I thought the experimentation was bad, she thought as she watched it, frozen in mid-run. I have to stop this Maelstrom personality in order to save Naruto. How did he manage to remain sane after that? He did snap. She saw how he dealt with it, then she started running again, and then she saw how he grew up and saved a girl, and then he saved the mutant world because of his kindness, going back to Konoha, killing Danzo, and people starting to fear him, and she saw how she became important in his life. She felt something inside when this happened, and she smiled when she saw him give up to save her, and then she found the end of the tunnel when he killed the man who had hurt her. By the time she got there, she saw three identical versions of herself. What's going on here? All three asked. You must face yourself here, Cash, Xavier said, as he emerged from his chair and another person floated to his feet, attempting to exert dominance with rings of energy shooting between them. He is known as Echo. For this reason you have to make him do something that will show who he really is. You must find a way to fight him quickly because he cannot use any of his true abilities as long as he is like you. We are fighting too many mental battles to prevent this world from destroying itself just as they do in him. Our dark sides are vying for control over us. So one of you is Echo and one is Maelstrom, Tenten said, glancing at the two. Since you both have distinct personalities, I really only need to defeat one of you in order to defeat the other. She frowns and thinks, well, I have to do something that he can't do, as she assumed a taijutsu stance that the others perfectly matched. If that is so, then let's begin. Reload stated that since I am in charge of my own thoughts and actions, I am in charge of this and not him. She made a kunai appear in her hand, and the other two followed suit. Tenten grinned as she swung the kunai around and stabbed herself in the arm. How do I defeat myself when I can't harm myself? That's it. While the Tentens stopped after the skin broke, the blades went all the way through the arms as the other person did. After the two gradually transformed into Naruto, a massive staircase materialized, lifting both Naruto and Tenten into the air as they began to run up it. When she reached the top, panting heavily, she saw Reload standing next to her as a throne rose from the ground, with Naruto on either side. Reload said, "Good job so far, but you only have about 2 minutes left, so listen closely. As long as there are two here, he will always be at war with himself. You have seen his past, you have been shown the truth." Her own past began to flash past her as she ran, and all the sadness, loneliness, hate, and joy began to fade away as she continued to run. You can see why he is the way he is by looking at his current situation. You have to show him his future now. You have to now reveal to him who the true person is in this situation. Is it Maelstrom or is it Echo? Which individual are you here to save? She saw both standing on the side of an empty throne and thought, he is Echo, but he is Maelstrom as well. Tenten appeared stunned and looked at both, noting that one was in blue and the other was in red, but other than that, she could not see any difference. Even I am unsure which one is Echo and which is not, so how can I choose one? Hey, I came here to help Naruto, but how can I help him? Hold on a second, not Maelstrom, not Echo. They're both the same individual. The same person's two personalities are vying for dominance over him. It makes sense, but it can't be that easy. This is an opportunity to tell him the truth, Reload thought as she gazed at her, because only you have the ability to see beneath what is visible and expose what is hidden. Only you can perform it, Cash. The light went out as both Narutos started to fade away and one appeared in the center where Tenten was hugging, and Tenten said, "The one I came here to save is you." She then walked forward between both Narutos to the throne and wrapped her arms around the air where a person should sit. When he appeared, Tenten noticed that he was sleeping with his eyes closed. She also noticed that Naruto resembled Echo and Maelstrom, but instead of being red or blue, he was wearing white. After the other two Naruto vanished, Reload said, "It's time, Cash, we have to go." He touched her shoulder before they both vanished. When Tenten opened her eyes and looked down, she saw Naruto sleeping on the bed, but she also noticed something different about him, something she couldn't quite place her finger on, but he appeared to be at peace for the first time since she had first met him. She blinked and said, "Okay, that was weird and tiring." She closed her eyes and passed out after seeing Jean on her knees, panting, and the professor white as a ghost. She then turned to look back where Reload was, but he was gone. Before she could fall off the bed, Kakashi grabbed her and carried her away, saying, "I will take her to her room." Rogue inquired, "What happened?" After they had left. "It was hard," Xavier said. "Jean and I had to battle our dark sides once more. When we entered his mind, I had hoped that I would never do it again because there were two of them. I observed that it appeared to be the case for Echo as well. The only thing I know for sure is that his two personalities have combined. I have no idea what will happen, but like everyone else, he will require rest." As they walked away, Rogue nodded, gave Naruto a head kiss, and muttered, "Get well soon, son." When Naruto woke up, he looked around and saw that he was in his room. He closed his eyes once more when he heard someone say, "Give it up, Echo. I am aware that you are awake." "So what are you doing here now, Reload?" Naruto sighed, sat up slowly and stiffly, and glared at the person seated across from him. Naruto glared at Reload as he pulled out a deck of cards, began to shuffle them, and said, "We got to talk," as he pushed his chair over and placed his feet on the table next to the bed by themselves in order to prevent Xavier or Phoenix from spying. "I put the room under lockdown for the foreseeable future and installed neural disruptors and a feedback loop in the camera system." "So, what do you want?" asked Naruto. "I know you've been here before because I saw you in my mind when Cash was here." After distributing the cards, Reload flipped one on the deck and said, "Ah, the Queen of Hearts." After Naruto had examined his two cards, an ideal card to begin our conversation. To which Naruto replied, "Well, get on with it. And a Joker would be perfect representation of Apocalypse." Reload scowled as he flipped a different card into a King of Hearts. Apocalypse will be coming for the Queen of Hearts because she is the only one who can bring the King of Hearts out and the King is the only one who can stop him. He said the game is over if he ever manages to get his hands on the Queen. The King must live as well. So who is the Queen? Naruto asked with a frown. He said, that is for you to figure out. After Reload flipped another card and revealed it to be a Queen of Diamonds. The Queen of Diamonds should also be avoided as he flipped another card that revealed another Joker. He said, or the other one to get him. She wants the King of Hearts for herself, but she wants to turn him into the King of Diamonds to make a flush, and she would be willing to use the Joker. Naruto let out a sigh. So you're saying that I have two women who are going to be coming after me and Apocalypse is after one of them? I never said you were the king, Reload said. Glancing at Naruto, you would have to protect the Queen of Hearts from the Joker, as I just mentioned as he flipped the final card, which revealed a Jack of Hearts or a Knight. He said, you could be the king who is the Kinga or whether there is a King of Hearts at Allah will depend on your choice. What do you have, then? Naruto displayed the Ace of Hearts and the Ten of Hearts while saying, straight flush. As he folds his cards, Reload nods and remarks, beats my full house. So Tenten's the queen, isn't she? Said Naruto with a frown on his face. Just as the door to his room exploded open, Reload said, perhaps not only you and time can tell for sure. Just remember that the Jack is expendable. The queen is not because only she can bring forth the king, but if your hand plays out the Jack would want to be around also. Good luck. He then got up and left, asking Magneto, are you alright? As he had the metal form back to the door. Yes, but we have much to discuss. Call everyone to the war room. Please Eric if Cash is here as well. Then bring her along, Naruto said, squinting his eyes as he studied the cards. Naruto gets out of bed, still wearing his pajama pants, and heads to the bathroom after Magneto nods and takes one final look around. 20 minutes later, Xavier asked, what do you call a meeting for Naruto? As Naruto entered the war room wearing only shorts and a wife beater. Sorry for the informalities, but I need to make sure of what I believe before I say it, so please bear with me, Naruto said as he approached the computer, ignoring everyone else, and began typing something. Stopping, he turned around and said, sorry for ignoring you a moment. I was hoping the computer could come up with one of the clues to the puzzle. He then asked, shit, nothing. Rogue inquired, what puzzle? A few people snickered when Naruto sighed and said, I just had a little chat with my new, least favorite time travel tell Cable. Congrats. He's been replaced in my book as an annoying ass by Reload. Xavier remarked, so what did he say? Naruto looked up and said, me and him played a game of cards. He told me during the game that Apocalypse is going to try and kill someone soon. A woman who, I don't know, but whoever she is has the ability to bring someone who can kill Apocalypse, but only if she lives. He also told me there is another woman involved who wants to take the one who can kill Apocalypse away so he won't be able to stop him, and she is willing to work with either Apocalypse or another person who has an interest in the party. The last thing he told me was that someone will most likely die to save the one who can bring the one who can kill Apocalypse. I don't have enough information at the time to figure out who these others are, but one thing is for sure, whoever this woman is that Apocalypse wants dead, we have to save her at all cost. Did he give any other clues as to who these people could be? Inquired Kakashi, who was standing next to Tenten. Naruto looked at him and said, the only other thing is how he chose to display each of them. He had the one who can kill Apocalypse as a King of Hearts. The woman who brings him forward is the Queen of Hearts. The one who could die is the Jack of Hearts. The woman who wants the king is the Queen of Diamonds, and Apocalypse and the other person were both Jokers. Jean closed her eyes and said, Naruto, was there anything else you can tell us about Reload? As Xavier scowled. Aside from the fact that Reload can use liquid metal, Naruto sighed. Tenten asked, are you sure? As everyone's eyes widened for a moment. Says Naruto. Yeah. Why, were you able to tell what kind of metal? Magneto inquired. Naruto replied, no, the only reason I picked it up was because the cards we played the game with was made of metal. Until I picked them up I did not even detect it. I was able Mark 1 using my powers by bending the corner as a test, and I watched as it formed back to normal. Why? She is now able to use liquid metal as an attack because of what happened to you and Cash, Tenten said, glancing at Jean, who nodded slowly. After a brief moment of sadness, Naruto said, I see Cash. I want to say I. Tenten raised her hand in the air. Don't worry about it, you did all you could to save me, and that's all I could ask. Beside it, having some really cool powers now like you and the others here, I don't see anything to be sorry for. Yes, it hurt, but it wasn't your fault and you got revenge for me already, so don't worry about it. Xavier said, speaking of, how do you feel now? It looks like you're having trouble with something. Naruto nodded and bit his lip. Naruto looks at himself with a frown and nods. My emotions they when I think of some things now like the Hokage. I used to be happy just to see him but now I feel several emotions about him. Happiness, hatred, envy, joy, anger, and pity. I don't understand what I should feel for him. It's not just him either. My feelings for Kakashi are screwed up also for reasons. Tenten replied, if it's because he's my father then don't worry about it, I already dealt with him. Everyone turned to stare at Naruto as he scowled and Wolverine said, your masks is broke. What do you mean, Wolverine? Tenten inquired. Wolverine stated, look at his face. When he's thinking normally he could keep his emotions hidden so he could use his favorite fighting style without worry. Since he's been in here he's frowned, bit his lip, showed confusion, and several other emotions like he's never done before. Naruto inquired, what exactly happened in my mind? I know Xavier, Phoenix, Cash, and Reload were in my head but what exactly happened? Xavier replied, your dark side and your light side have merged together. You no longer have to fear becoming Maelstrom and you're also no longer just Echo, you both and neither. Naruto nods, glances at his metal hand, and says, so what now? I mean I destroyed an island again. He looks sad for a moment. Magneto replied, perhaps you should return home for some time to clear your head. After all you're supposed to be getting ready for a wedding soon anyways. With a sigh, Naruto asked, has it been that long? The rogue replied, yes, son. Kakashi replied, while that is perhaps a good idea, what about his duties here? Naruto looked at Kakashi and responded, Kakashi, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't belong here, not anymore. This incident just proved it more. I will stay here until we deal with Apocalypse and then I'm gone. I only have one true friend here and because of me she's now become a mutant. If I never came here she would still be with her old team and Orochimaru would never have had that doctor make her a test subject. That's the only other thing I am going to do before I leave Kakashi. I made a promise on that island and I always keep my promises. I will kill Orochimaru for not only what he did to me but also the pain he caused Cash. Now if nobody minds I am going to the danger room to burn off some energy. While using slip. Following his departure Xavier responded, I believe that is all for now. I want you all to think over what you heard and keep a lookout for anyone who might be in interest for Apocalypse. Kakashi let out a sigh as he watched everyone depart and noticed that Tenten was no longer there where she had been sitting. He took out his copy of Icha Paradise and shook his head. Rogue retreated when she noticed Tenten sneaking out through the side door a short while ago. Tenten headed for her room after leaving the room, but Rogue stopped her, saying, we need to talk. Tenten's voice was slightly snippy as she asked, what about? About how you feel for my son, Rogue asked. According to Tenten, I don't feel anything for him. Rogue hit Tenten with his fist and said, bullshit, you may think you're fooling everyone but the only one who hasn't figured it out is Naruto. We all saw how you have been sneaking into his room to check on him and sitting by his bed and how every time his name is mentioned your ears instantly pick up. You should realize the only one besides him that you're really fooling is yourself because you don't realize he cares for you also. You heard the recording of the talk between him and Orochimaru, so you heard the worry in his voice when he was trying to get a hold of you as well as the when he threatened you. You're both just too stupid to realize how badly you care for him. Tell me, if he would have been anyone else in this village who was without a team, would you still have left yours to be with him? Hell no, you wouldn't, so drop the act. Tenten replied, what does it matter? He's leaving soon and I won't ever see him again, so the problem's solved. Glad we could settle this, goodbye. Listen little girl, I can understand you being pissed off right now, but you don't have to be a bitch about it, believe me. I am Bitch Master version 9. Oh, you don't have shit on me, Rogue said, grabbing Tenten and slamming her against a wall. Tenten tried to break free and said, let me go. Rogue replied, or what, you going to attack me? Then what, run away scared and then cry your eyes out giving yourself a pity party? I thought you hated it when people ran away from their problems. Tenten grabbed a pair of kunais and attempted to attack Rogue, but both of her arms were pulled back, and Rogue slammed a knee into Tenten's back while her face was slammed against a wall. Rogue replied, now that's what I like to see, someone who likes to stand up for themselves. Someone who don't take shit off of anyone. You think just because Blondie said he was leaving you never see him again. How can you be sure? A lot could happen between now and then. You're a ninja. You could die on your next mission and it won't matter 2 cents either way then, so what are you going to do about it? You going to just run to your room and cry your eyes out, or are you going to fight until the end? Are you going to let him get away with hurting your feelings, or are you going to make him remember you as the most badass bitch this side of hell he's ever going to meet and you're not letting him go without a fight? No, I'm not going to cry and I'm not giving up. I just don't understand why, if he cares for me, then why is he willing to just leave me? Tenten said, feeling her strength ebbing away as she attempted to break free. Both women turned to watch Kakashi read his book when a voice from down the hall said, because he feels it's his fault you got hurt and he thinks if he failed you once it will happen again. After releasing Tenten, Rogue inquired, "How long have you been here?" Kakashi replied, "Long enough now, Rogue. I do admit my daughter may be an idiot at times when it comes to love. A trait she picked up from me, but could you try not to break her? I mean, she could be your daughter-in-law someday." Tenten screamed. "Dad." She turned red with embarrassment. Kakashi laughed and replied, "Now let's see if you both start to date. I have to give him the famous 'you hurt her and I kill you' speech. What can I threaten a boy who can destroy an entire island with?" "That's easy. His booze," said Rogue. Tenten declared, "Won't work. I already destroyed them all." Rogue replied, "You really don't know him well, do you? Kids probably already got some made somewhere, and if he's working off his frustration in the danger room like I think he is, then odds are he's got several bottles of it with him." As she ran toward the danger room, Tenten's eyes glowed and she exclaimed, "Oh hell no, I already told him he was not going to make any more, and if I find he's drinking again I am going to kill him." Kakashi said, "Told you it would work," as he turned to face Rogue. As Rogue put it, "So how's your little project, Isarabi?" Kakashi replied, "She's doing good. I say that by the time the exams get here she should be ready. Since I resigned from teaching Sasuke, he was put on Team 9 under Guy, and I have been labeled as both Tenten and Naruto sensei of Team 7. I have her working 3 days a week with Anko and 3 days with me. Between us she's progressing really fast. I got her the day after tomorrow again." Nodding, Rogue remarked, "Well, I wonder how the lovebirds are doing." With his claws outstretched, Naruto ran through the Bronx during rush hour traffic, surrounded by sentinels, anti-mutant supporters, the army, marines, national guards, helicopters, tanks, and several hundred Apocalypse little soldiers all attacking him at once. He was holding 2 bottles of homebrew upside down, connected to a straw in his mouth, and a beer cap bearing the words, "I am the designated driver," on his head. Tenten entered this location, and the program briefly froze when the door opened. Naruto turned to see Tenten with her arms crossed and tapping her foot with her index fingers. She asked in a sweet, sickening voice, "What did I say about being drunk?" Naruto said, I am still 5 bottles short of getting drunk," with a momentary sheepish expression. Tenten threw her kunais, shattering the bottles in his hat, and said, "Sorry, but now you have to be punished." He went pale and said, "Wait, I can cut back." Tenten had formed 2 kunais in her hand. "No, you're going to quit completely," Tenten said. Stopping, Naruto exclaimed, "Oh hell no, I am not." "Yes, you are, or I will kick your ass until you see it my way," Tenten said with a sparkle in her eye. "Is that a challenge?" asked Naruto. Tenten formed a pair of claws out of her skin, resembling Wolverine's, and said, "Yeah, it is. You have to catch me first. Resume program." Naruto grinned as everything started to move again. Tenten soon discovered that she was being attacked as well, but she was eliminating any obstacles in her path. As a group of soldiers surrounded her, Naruto emerged behind her and remarked, "I have to say, you have improved." As she grabbed her shirt and pants and tore them off, Tenten blushed and said, "You haven't seen anything yet." Naruto was shocked and held his nose from bleeding as he yelled, "What the hell are you doing?" Tenten was wearing a sports bra and a thong. Tenten grinned and said, "This?" Then she leapt into the air, sending thousands of senbon needles flying from her body, striking Naruto and everything else. When Tenten landed, she grinned at Naruto, who had senbons in multiple pressure points that prevented him from moving. Tenten then grabbed her clothes and put them back on, and Naruto noticed that they were also made of liquid metal. Tenten had all of his weapons, but those in Naruto turned to liquid and returned to her. She then walked over, put her foot on his crotch, and gave it a little rub back and forth before saying, "Now if I catch you drinking again I will crush this. Do I make myself clear?" With a pale face, Naruto replied, "Yes." Tenten laughed and replied, "Good. Now I want you to go take a shower and get dressed and meet me in 2 hours. We are going out to eat and you're paying." As Tenten applied a little more pressure to his crotch, Naruto remarked, "Why'd I have okay?" She grinned and added, "Now be a good boy and I might give you some kind of reward later." Naruto inquired, "What kind of reward?" As she reabsorbed the weapons, including those in Naruto, Tenten went over to an ice chest she saw, opened it, destroyed all but 1 bottle, and said, "I might let you have a sip of this with dinner." She then walked away. Naruto flopped down and said, "My god, she just like my mother, except mom only threatens my booze when I have more than 3 a day. She threatened my manhood. When the hell did I get whipped?" As he approached Naruto and assisted him in standing up, Gambit remarked, "The moment you decided you liked a girl more dangerous than you." "I can't help but feel mom was involved in this whole thing," Naruto sighed. Gambit stated, "Only a fool bets against a sure thing and I am no fool." Smiling, Naruto remarked, "But damn, she does have a nice body and a nice set of legs." Looks like I don't have to get you a hooker for a birthday present after all, Gambit remarked with a sly smile. Naruto replied, I suppose you're right, that is if she likes me. I am certain that she does, Gambit said. She's letting you know who in the family is in charge. Yeah, Naruto replied, metal ones at that. As he and Naruto exited the room, Gambit laughed. When Naruto appeared outside the house a short time later, he was wearing a blue muscle shirt and black cargo pants. He waited until Tenten emerged, wearing a black dress that was a perfect fit for her. Naruto gaped at her, and Tenten smirked, posed, and asked, so how'd I look? You look great, Naruto said. Thanks, now come on, Tenten said. I'm going hungry. Naruto replied, hey, since I am paying, shouldn't I decide where we are going to eat? Nope, Tenten said. This isn't a date, this is a component of your penalty for consuming alcohol once more. And why should I listen to you anyway? Said Naruto. Remember, I am the sensei. Tenten stated, not anymore, my dad is our sensei, and we are now a three-man team, that's why you should pay attention. If your mother knew that Gambit was going to get you a hooker for your birthday, how would she feel? You heard that, Naruto said, looking pale. How? Tenten remarked, I heard you two conversing when I went to the control booth to check my weapon accuracy. I appreciate you praising my legs, they are, in my opinion, my strongest suit. Yeah, not even your, Naruto said, catching himself. Tenten gave him a look and remarked, not even my what? Nothing, said Naruto. Naruto went wide-eyed for a moment before he went pale when he felt a kunai tap his crotch. Tenten pouted for a moment before turning to face him and placing her arm behind his head. She then moved close and ran her other hand down his stomach toward his crotch. Tenten said, not even my what? Not even your eyes are as nice as they are, and your eyes are heaven, Naruto sighed. Tenten retreated and remarked, that's not fair, as Naruto grinned and Tenten flushed. Where I use threats, you use flattery. Naruto replied, hey, you can attract more flies with honey than you can vinegar, and besides, you know the old saying, opposites attract. So does that mean you're attracted to me? Tenten asked with a sly smile. With a sly smile, Naruto remarked, well, you have mounted me once. Tenten became enraged and questioned, what do you mean? Oh, I checked my room's security system while getting ready because Reload had messed with it, and I saw when you helped me, Naruto said. I have to admit that I always assumed you enjoyed being in charge. Tenta flew after Naruto as he began to run, weapons flying across rooftops. Tenten was furious at Naruto, who had a smug expression on his face the entire time, during their peaceful dinner after they had finally gathered all the weapons. Upon returning to the mansion after dinner, Naruto remarked, I had a good time tonight, and I was hoping we might be able to do it again sometime. Are you asking me out? Tenten asked, glancing at him. If I am, would you say yes? Asked Naruto as Naruto shifted on his feet. Tenten put a finger to her chin, giving the impression that she was deep in thought, and she said, depends. As Naruto questioned, depends on what? Tenten said, this. She kissed him, and then she pulled him into an embrace. They both jumped back as a number of flashes appeared all around them, and Kakashi exclaimed, "Ah, my daughters. First kiss sniff. Sniff, she's so much like her mother it's scary." Rogue cried fake tears as she landed and said, "My boy's growing up so fast, so when can I expect grandkids?" Tenten turned beet red with rage as she attempted to hide behind Naruto and screamed, "Dad!" as the other X-Men emerged from hiding with cameras. Tenten fainted at that moment due to having too much embarrassment, and Naruto caught her while yelling, "MOM." The other person laughed. Once Tenten was in her room, Naruto noticed a beast with multiple cameras and inquired, "So how did you guys get so close without us detecting you?" "Kakashi has been teaching us some genjutsu so that Nightcrawler and I can go out and the others can learn them too," Beast stated. "All right. Naruto, good night, it's nice to see you again." Naruto replied, "Thanks Hank, anyway I could convince you to destroy those." Hank walked over and tossed them in the garbage chute after saying, "Sure." Naruto said, "Thanks, no problem." Hank replied, "The movie has already been made." In an attempt to stop the laughing beast from running down the hall, Naruto yelled, "Damn it, you fucking blue furball. I am going to shave my name on your head and shave your ass bald." When Tenten woke up the following morning, she screamed and looked around her room. Naruto then ran into her room and froze, leaving Tenten standing there gaping in only her bra and underwear. Hundreds of pictures of her and Naruto kissing from various portable, digital, and surveillance camera shots were all over her room, including printed on her blanket. She turned slowly and saw Naruto moving his mouth to say something. She followed his eyes and said, "What's your problem?" before diving under the covers to hide. "I will, yeah." Naruto shook his head and said, "Sorry, what did you say?" It appeared that he caught himself in the moment. Tenten cried out, "Get out!" A kunai struck the door as Naruto slammed it shut and fled the room. From the chair that had appeared since Naruto ran into the room, Kakashi asked, "Sue, is everything alright in there?" as Naruto was panting on his ass outside her door. After giving him a fierce look, Naruto scolded Kakashi and yelled, "Go to hell, copycat. I would accept Anko and Wolverine are in it right now screwing like wild animals." Kakashi shrugged. As the words registered, Naruto blinked and uttered the words, "Come again." "You heard me," Kakashi said. "Isarabi was working with Beast when I went to the danger room to see how he was doing with Anko. I asked him where Anko was, and he told me to check Wolverine's room. The man's obsession with cutting things is nearly as severe as Anko's. In any case, what were we discussing?" Naruto replied, "You were asking me what I thought of your daughter." "Was I?" Kakashi said, placing a finger to his chin. "I can't recall." As his teeth prickled, Naruto transformed into Kakashi and uttered, "There's that cool hip attitude that pisses me off." With a shudder, Kakashi uttered, "Never do that again or I will forbid you from seeing my daughter." "And what if I were to march back into her room, throw her on the bed, and ravage her, what would you say?" Naruto asked after changing back. As he felt a hand on his shoulder, Kakashi remarked, "Watch the claws." When her mother got sexually excited, it was just like an animal in heat and she literally grew sea. He turned pale as he turned to face Tenten, who was grinning sweetly and sickeningly. "So you have no problem becoming a grandpa, huh?" she asked. She took Naruto's hand and began to return to her room, saying, "Come on, Naruto-kun, let's go wild." After going pale, Kakashi remarked, "Wait, I was only joking." Naruto thought, "How the hell am I being whipped by her?" As Tenten grinned to me, "My mother is the only one who gets away with doing such a thing. I am an Omega level mutant. Fucking why the devil do I let her guide me by my side when I could destroy the entire world if I so desired?" Taking Naruto's hand, Tenten said, "Why the hell can I hear your thoughts, and what the hell do you mean you could destroy the world, and what am I leading you around by?" With a bewildered expression, Naruto uttered, "Wait, how did you hear my thoughts?" Tenten shrugged, and Kakashi turned to leave, saying, "Let's go, the others were wanting to see you too when you got up, so come on." Naruto approached and hopped up on a counter as the three entered the war room, thinking, "Hey Jean, did Cash get psychic powers also?" Jean, who was speaking to Cyclops, paused, turned to face Naruto, and said, "No, why?" Naruto reflected, "Just a few minutes earlier she had what I was thinking and then asked me about it." Jean said, "I'll be right back." Scott. She stood up and approached Tenten, saying, "I need to talk to Cash for a moment." After Tenten and Kakashi had taken their seats close to the rear of the room, Jean approached and asked, "Can you hear me, Cash?" "What?" Tenten asked. Glancing at Jean, she rubbed her face and asked, "Do I have something on my face?" "Echo told me you heard his thoughts earlier," Jean said. "Could you please explain it to me?" Tenten replied, "Well, I came out of my room and Dad and him were joking and Dad said something perverted again and I came back with one on my own and grabbed Echo's hand and started to walk into my room with him and I heard his thoughts." After scowling for a moment, Jean took Tenten's hand and asked, "Is Naruto a good kisser?" Jean released Tenten after she blushed for a moment, saying, "Interesting, hey Kakashi, grab her hand and think something." Grabbing Tenten's hand, Kakashi pondered, "I wonder if I should get her and Naruto a box of condoms each." Tenten drove Kakashi into a wall with a punch to the face and yelled, "Pervert. So you can hear people's thoughts by touching them." Jean explained, "Your other power currently places you at an alpha level, but that would make you a beta level mutant. I'll note your new powers in your file, and please let me know if you see anything else." As Jean returns to Scott and Kakashi approaches again, Tenten nods. "I apologize for keeping you all waiting," the professor said as he entered, Magneto following him. "Now that the immediate crisis is over, I want everyone to get ready to return to our world, which is why I called this meeting. We don't want to overstay our welcome just yet, even though I know Bishop and the others have everything under control. I called this meeting for a second reason. As you can all see, we have taken the time to teach Cash how to manage her abilities and have been hospitable to her father. Kakashi, I want to express once more our regret that our actions affected you, Cash, and our gratitude for handling everything amicably." Tenten replied, "No issue. I genuinely enjoy my abilities, and I think you are all wonderful people. Some of you, especially Echo, can be a little weird at times, but that is what makes you unique. I would like to express my gratitude for teaching me how to use them." "Now on to more important matters," Xavier said as everyone laughed at Naruto's expense. "I want to know if you want to join the X-Men as an official member, Cash." With a blink, Tenten questioned, "What do you mean?" You and your father have always had at least one person keeping an eye on you to make sure you haven't betrayed our trust. Consider it a probationary period, Xavier said, in order to ascertain whether someone is truly visiting as an enemy or a friend. We always do this when they stay with us at the school. We had Kakashi listed as a spy prior to the trap your team fell into. Tenten looked around in shock, blinked, and asked, why? Because he was mentally examining for security flaws and other items to report to the Hokage, Naruto stated. He only had a rank level security because of this. As you recall, I placed you on the same level as me, and whenever you entered any of the rooms such as this one, the danger room, or the hangare, you were accompanied by someone who genuinely obtained your clearance. You must realize that we cannot grant Konoha access to, say, the danger room or the X-Jet. They would have access to all of our private documents and combat data, as well as any vulnerabilities that might have been exploited against us, if they did. I suppose I can see where that would be needed. Tenten scowled. What would be the difference between my current situation and becoming an X-Men in real life? Well, you would get one of our actual radios, which we all carry with us, so you could call for emergency help from us like Echo did in the event that another trap happened. Xavier explained. Additionally, you would have access to the Skyhop and not have to wait for Echo to take you to the danger room to practice if you so desired. According to Naruto, my Skyhopper, hell no, Tenten grinned and said, all right, sign me up, or whatever. No, cried Naruto, poor baby, she is going to crash it. Everyone laughed. Beast, Xavier said, would you do the honors? Beast turned to a computer and began typing, saying, Hitaki Tenten, codename Cash, X-level access granted. He added, it would be my honor, X-Men, status. Tenten turned to face Kakashi, who grinned back at her. Don't think we've forgotten about you, Kakashi. Xavier said, we would like to ask you if you would like to become an honorary X-Men because you have been helpful in teaching us more about being a ninja than we had in our data from the Hokage and showing us about 400 jutsu that were recorded in the danger room. According to Kakashi, what's that basically mean? Only about 50 regular people in our world have been given this honor, according to Rogue. It implies that you set an example for others to follow even if you are not a mutant in our eyes. It is our way of saying, thank you, for treating us like equals and people, and that we are ready to help if you ever need it. Additionally, you will receive a radio similar to the one Cash had when she was apprehended. In addition to having the emergency frequency that comes to this room and connects to the same room in our other mansion to notify us of your need, it is one of our basic ones that lacks our command frequency and can only communicate locally with another X-Men within a 10-mile radius. Few people have gained our full trust without someone else present. You will be able to enter the danger room but not the hangar, the science labs, or personal information. After giving it some thought, Kakashi asked, will it interfere with my responsibilities to the village of Konoha? Xavier replied, no, in fact we have something Eric and I have discussed and would like to talk over with your Hokage. According to Kakashi, what might that be? We think our world might be able to use some of that knowledge because of the skills you have shown, including basic first aid. Xavier stated, we would like to form a treaty with Konoha because of that. Naturally, this will come after the apocalypse. Right now, he is our biggest concern. We can work out the specifics later, but we would be happy to share some of our knowledge with Konoha in return. Right now, it's only in the initial phase. Kakashi replied, as long as it does not interfere with my duty to the village or betrays the village, I will accept. The beast replied, good, I had already put that in ahead of time. With a sigh, Kakashi asked Naruto, so when are you guys leaving? According to Magneto, this afternoon the Brotherhood has sent me some reports, which I must investigate. Your fangirl seems increasingly desperate to locate you. Tenten inquired, who is this fangirl you guys are always talking about? Her name is Suzy K. Bamba. Naruto sighed. Nearly 3 years ago, her father was elected president. She now worships me as a hero because I saved her life. In any case, after I saved her life, her father enacted laws granting mutants the same rights as regular people, acknowledging them as a real race. This has, for the first time in my life, brought us true peace. Eric stated, it's been more than 59 years since we've seen true peace. Mutants prior to that time, there weren't nearly enough mutants observed and known about to warrant any kind of research. The apocalypse is one of the exceptions. Tragically, Naruto added, and Diamond. Xavier added, will you still follow through on it? Tenten asked, glancing at Naruto. What? I promised her I would, and I never break my word. Naruto declared, I'll assist her in getting back in touch with her family one day. He can be kind and caring, Tenten thought with a smile. However, I wonder who Diamond is. I may have only seen a portion of his life, but I believed I had seen it all. Well, that's all we have right now, Xavier said. By 4 p.m., I want everyone prepared to return Kakashi, Echo, and Cash while we are away. Please try to take care of one another, and don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it. Additionally, if anyone here knows anything about the end of the world, please let us know right away. Do you understand, Echo? Don't try to battle him by yourself." With a sheepish expression, Naruto said, "Don't worry, I know." "Well, it was a pleasure meeting you all," Xavier said, nodding before we depart. "Eric, is there anything else you would like to say?" As he approached Tenten, Magneto said, "Yes, here." He took something off his back and placed it in her hand, saying, "That is something special. After we depart, ask Echo what it is, but keep it hidden from him until then." Naruto asked, "What are you up to, Eric?" After Tenten nodded. "You will know after we depart," Eric said with a smile. "Well, I have to leave. Mystic is most likely prepared to murder the other members of the Brotherhood." "She's most likely PM Singh," Naruto said, slapping his head. "She's just one of 4 women that frighten me, I promise." Rogue replied, "Well, besides me, her and Cash here, who's the other?" Naruto stated, "Anko. Any woman who is as crazy enough to sleep with Wolverine is scary in my book." That made everyone laugh, and Tenten remarked, "So you're afraid of me?" Naruto stated, "I am scared to find out how exactly what will grow back on my body if you decide to go hack and slash on my Cyclops." Red in the face, Tenten yelled, "Shut up, pervert. Remember, we only have about a month before you need to start getting ready for the wedding," Rogue said as she approached. Nodding, Naruto said, "I will be there." Cash was staring at Rogue. "What about you? Are you coming to the wedding? I mean, Wonderboy here needs an escort, and since you and him are dating now." "Oh yeah, I guess we are kind of a couple now," Tenten said. "Flushed. I suppose I forgot about it until now because of everything that has happened. Indeed, if the Hokage permits me to depart, I will come." Rogue nods and continues, "Now you take care of her, son. I like her and I think she's a keeper who can keep you in line." "Mom," Naruto said in a whinny voice. "Don't mom me," said Rogue. "You need someone to keep you out of trouble because you have a habit of getting into it unintentionally. Even though he doesn't have much, I believe you can make do with what you have." As Naruto flushed from embarrassment, Tenten laughed and remarked, "Don't worry, I will keep him out of trouble. And I will prevent her from becoming pregnant," Kakashi declared. Tenten turned and punched Kakashi in the stomach, sending him flying into a wall as she yelled, "Dad. Damn, she hits harder than Tsunade," Kakashi thought as he rubbed his stomach. "Well, I tested her and it turns out she has some minor powers in that Echo," Jean said as she approached to do it. "She must be in contact with the individual." "Well, if that is all, I think I am going to help Mom pack," Naruto nodded before turning to go. "So want to go help me train, Dad?" Tenten asked. "Yes, you should begin practicing with Isarabi anyhow," Kakashi said. "By the way, is she also an X-Men or something?" Jean responded, "No, she doesn't yet trust us, even though she has the same A-level access as you did. I can relate to what transpired with her. Well, I have to leave as she went," she said. "Good luck, you too." "Come on, Dad," Tenten said. "The vacation is almost over. I suppose we'll resume our mission shortly, won't we?" "Yes," Kakashi replied. "Tomorrow. So what does everyone know about me?" Tenten asked, nodding. According to Kakashi, they know you were captured and hurt and you have been getting physical therapy for your injury but don't know anything else. "Does the Hokage know?" Tenten asked, nodding. "Yes, but he does not know everything," Kakashi remarked. "He only knows that you have a mutant power now, but he has no idea what it is or how it works." He agreed when I said, "You'll tell him when you trust him." Tenten remarked, "Thanks, Dad." "So seriously," Kakashi said with a smile, "do you want me to get you a box of condoms?" Tenten cried out in rage, "Dad." She became even more enraged as she began to make weapons after Kakashi laughed and sidestepped her punch, turning pale and waving his hands while saying, "Sorry, I'm just trying to make up for you know." Tenten appeared to lose confidence and uttered, "Well, stop being such a pervert. I promise I'll never get why your mother liked you." Kakashi replied, "The mask, she wanted to know what I looked like behind it." "That reminds me, what do you look like under it?" Tenten said with a frown. With a smile, Kakashi said, "I'm afraid I can't show you." With a gaping expression, Tenten said, "But why? I am your daughter. The only 5 people who have ever seen me without my mask are your mother, Naruto's parents, and my parents, who gave birth to me." Kakashi shrugged. "Apart from that, nobody has ever seen it, and it will stay that way." "So Naruto's parents knew, huh? Why them?" Tenten asked. "Minato-sensei, my sensei, and his wife, a whirlpool ninja, both witnessed it when I had dinner with your mother and them at their place the day we told each other we were expecting children soon." Kakashi shrugged. "Your mother was his godmother, and they were your godparents?" Tenten inquired. "Then who was his godfather?" "Jiraiya of the Sanins," said Kakashi. "Tell me, then." Are you aware of your elemental affinity? Tenten said, scowling, yes, water. Okay. I was hoping you also had lightning so I could teach you my signature move, Kakashi said, scowling for a moment. Well, why can't you try anyway? Tenten asked. Maybe, but later, Kakashi remarked. Let's go. Kakashi, Echo, and Cash entered the Hokage office the following day, and the third person exclaimed, "Ah, I am so glad to see you are both up and doing well now. Anyway, I can get information on Orochimaru," Naruto said. "I have an obligation to fulfill." "No, you're not," said the third, scowling. "The fact that you both survived that trap is truly miraculous. I sent you both alone without a Junin-sensei, which was a terrible mistake that almost cost you your lives." "Yes, but we're stronger for it now, sir," Tenten remarked. "Yes," replied the third, "but at what cost? In addition to wanting to know why you never told me about what happened to you, Naruto, I would like to know at least what has happened to you, Cash." "I told you I killed before," Naruto said. "Do you enjoy discussing mass genocide if you are the one who carried it out? I don't like talking about it." As Tenten held out her hand and liquid metal formed a kunai, the third scowled and she remarked, "I have better healing and the inside of my body is now indestructible and I never have to buy weapons ever again." "I see," replied the third. "Anything else?" "Not that I am aware of at this time, sir," Tenten said. "Although new abilities might develop in the future, my codename appears to be still appropriate for my new abilities as of right now." "Well, as of right now, you are officially Team 7 under Kakashi, and your third teammate is Isarabi," he said, nodding. "I anticipate that you will both make an effort to assist her in adjusting, and you will both need to become acquainted with the changes you have undergone." "Yeah, it's different now that my mind is whole again," Naruto said, nodding. "I'm still struggling to control my emotions, but with Tenten's assistance, I'm improving." Tenten added, "I am also acclimating to my abilities quite well. That reminds me, sir, I would like to request a leave of absence in a few weeks in the other world. I've been asked to accompany Echo to his mother's wedding." The third individual replied, "Very well, but I am trusting you, Naruto, to take care of her while she is there." After grabbing her hand and saying, "Don't worry, I will," the third teammate briefly grinned upon realizing this and remarked, "Well, your third teammate is at Training Ground 44 with Anko." He gave Kakashi a scroll and said, "I want you all to go and get used to each other before I give you a mission." "Yes, sir," Kakashi replied. "I'll start them on the path to finding Tora." "Hey Cash, do you think you can kill that cat?" said Naruto, scowling. "I think it's indestructible." Tenten grinned and remarked, "Perhaps, let's go," she said, turning and beginning to walk, but after a few seconds she realized she was just walking and said in a sickly sweet voice, "Naruto, let me go or I'll see if what makes you a man can grow back." She then turned to face Naruto, who grinned and said, "Believe me, you will thank me in a moment." At that moment, the room's door opened, and Hiyashi, Hyuga and Lee entered. "Sir, I ask that you permit me to murder this boy," he said. Tenten glanced at Naruto, who mouthed the word, "Later." The third person then asked, "What now?" Lee stated, "He is upset because I told him that if I am going to be forced to marry into the Hyuga clan as clan head, then I have the right to abolish the cage bird seal." When Tenten noticed Hiyashi's eye twitch, Hiyashi uttered the words, "Over my dead body, boy." Naruto said, "Hyuga-san, may I ask you a question? Why don't you let Lee go if you're so angry about his proposal to the Hyuga clan and his marriage to your daughter?" In Hiyashi's words, "This has nothing to do with you, boy." "In fact, it does," Naruto remarked. "You see, I made the alcohol that Lee drank and gave it to him, so if it weren't for me, he couldn't have beaten you and the rest of your clan." Hiyashi replied, "Well, that is very enlightening, but I don't see how that has anything to do with you." "Really, Lee, since you can't use chakra, have the doctors mentioned anything about your children?" Naruto grinned. "You are undoubtedly planning to have a large number of young Hyuga children." With wide eyes, Hiyashi said, "Yes, the doctor said they won't be able to use chakra also," Lee then responded. Hiyashi replied, "I see. That is something I had not expected, but what does this have to do with you?" After observing everything, the third person asked, "What are you planning to do, Naruto?" Naruto replied, "Hey Gigi, what exactly was the decision of Hyuga Nemo and Uchiha Velts that I read about in those books you sent me?" The third said, "I see what you're getting at, Naruto," as his eyes widened. "What are you speaking about?" Hiyashi scowled. The third individual stated, "During the reign of the Shoden, the Hyuga and the Uchiha clan, both as a sign of trust, had a member of their clan marry and formed a new clan, and both clans had several branch members from the Hyuga clan and several Uchiha who did not possess the Sharingan as bodyguards. However, the branch member and the Uchiha clan both had an alternate seal to the cage bird seal placed on them and the new couple, so that way neither clan could claim rights to them." Hiyashi commented, "This is very enlightening, but I don't see where this is all going." "It's going like this. Naruto stated you would have the right to have your youngest daughter, whom you initially intended to be the heir, succeed Lee and Hinata if you agreed to grant them their independence from your clan using the same seal created for that couple. As for where I come in, since I was at fault, I would let them both stay as guests at my house until a suitable clan house is made for them." After giving it some thought, Hiyashi remarked, "Very well, I agree with this idea. This afternoon, I will arrange for both of them to visit your home." "Good day, Hokage-sama," he said as he turned to leave. Lee remarked after he left, "But that still does not help me with the problem of being forced to marry Hinata. In fact, Lee, once you and Hinata receive that seal, the Hyuga clan loses its rights to you, so you won't have to marry unless you both want to." The third person said as Naruto shut the door. "How were you made aware of that, Naruto?" Tenten replied, "Yeah, I mean if it was this simple, why did you not say anything before?" "Because I wasn't the one who discovered it." Naruto stated it was a beast after scanning the library with Nightcrawler while they were here. He slipped me a note about it. "Thank you, my friend," said Lee with a smile. "I can at last be my younger self again." Naruto replied, "No problem, Lee, since like I said it was my fault." "How did you know they were coming here?" Tenten inquired. "Oh," Naruto remarked, "I had heard Hiyashi's cries in his mind while he was planning to castrate and fillet Lee on the way here, though I'm sorry for Hinata because she's losing so much. At least you and she are no longer part of that clan." The third individual replied, "Actually, once things settle down, Hinata can move in with her sensei who has asked to adopt her before, so that will make her happy since Hinata has not been happy in her own home." Lee replied, "And I can move back in with Guy sensei?" "Yes," Naruto replied, "but what will you two do to improve your relationship? Before me and Cash here embarked on that mission, it seemed like you two were getting closer." "I don't know," said Lee with a sigh. "I'm not sure what to think." Tenten said, "Talk to her. Lee, maybe you can be friends or more independently now that you're not being forced together. In any case, we must arrive at our mission." "Well, you mentioned something. Oh, the mission," Kakashi remarked as he left through the door. He said, "Let's go." Naruto remarked as they strolled through the village, "I wonder, what will Lee do when he learns the truth?" Tenten questioned, "What do you mean?" "Oh, I mean that Hinata doesn't like him at all," Naruto remarked. His eyebrows frightened her. "Ouch, that's harsh," Kakashi remarked as Tenten shrugged. Naruto remarked, "Poor Lee." "Yeah, the funny thing is that Hinata loves her teammates Bugs but is afraid of Lee's eyebrows," Naruto said. He shrugged his shoulders and said, "I just kept quiet about it until now because I felt guilty, but now that they're both free." Kakashi said, "Kids," as he glanced over and said, "Sorry about that, Kurenai." Tenten said, "Come on, let's race," as she started to run, Naruto right behind her. Sitting at the diner where Naruto and Tenten had just passed, Kurenai and her team were staring at one another when Kiba remarked, "Damn it, here I thought Hinata liked dogs, not bugs." Shino noticed the red-faced Hinata as he lifted his sunglasses and said, "Once you go tick, you always get licked and sticked." In response to Hinata's eep and nosebleed, Kiba remarked, "That is so wrong. Oh god, I will never be able to look at my students the same again." Kurenai thought a can of Raid is what I need. As Naruto and Tenten arrived at Training Ground 44, they observed Isarabi using chakra to run up and down a tree while Anko was consuming some dango. "Ah, Isarabi," said Kakashi, who had just emerged, "I am here to introduce your two teammates. This is Cash and Echo." Isarabi glanced down at Naruto, who said, "Calm down, Isarabi, I'm sorry, you had no other option, it's alright." As she held Naruto's hand, Tenten said, "As long as you know he's mine, we're cool." Isarabi glanced at her. "Really?" Isarabi said, blinking, "I am going to get revenge. No, I hate you, no, get away, freak." Naruto's blade shot out of his arm as Tenten held up her hand, and he remarked, "Well, I guess you can call us Team Freak then." A kunai then formed. Isarabi smiled slightly as Tora emerged from the woods ahead of them. Naruto's eyes went hazy. Lightning struck the cat. Tenten started hurling weapons at the cat that escaped. Anko threw snakes from the sleeve of her coat, and Isarabi questioned, "What's wrong with that cat?" Isarabi yelled, "Get off me, you damn cat," as she threw Tora after Tora ran up and jumped for her, biting her arm. Isarabi screamed, "Oh hell no," as Tora got to her feet, licked its lips, and spat out a stream of water. Naruto waited until the water struck Tora and froze it. According to Kakashi, "Well, good job all of you." At that moment, Tenten threw out a glob of liquid metal that encircled Tora and pushed it to the ground as Tora escaped and lunged at Isarabi with her tongue out. They brought the cat back to the tower after Naruto used his abilities to make it float and said, "Come on and let's get that cat back home before she tries to finish eating Isarabi." When the Sandaime looked at the date on the calendar and shook his head, he thought, when the hell are they getting back? He was once again completing paperwork. Come on, does the man really do anything else at his age? Instead of 3 months, it was only supposed to be 1. The Sandaime was startled when he heard a voice say, "We actually have a very good reason for that, Gigi." He looked up to see Naruto, Tenten, and Kakashi standing there. "Well, what is it?" said the Sandaime, scowling. "I have had to apologize to the council, your former teammates, and your part-time employer Cash for your 2-month tardiness in addition to the month you spent at the wedding. Why did it take an additional 2 months? Well, Naruto rubbed his head after giving him a back of the head slap. Tenten said, "Quite, I'll tell him." Kakashi replied, "I should probably tell him since I am more of a neutral on everything that happened." "Please, will someone tell me already?" the Sandaime sighed. The Sandaime blinked when Kakashi uttered, "Well, Naruto decided to destroy the world by crashing the moon into it." Naruto replied, "Hey, I only tried to crash the moon onto those idiots. I was going to put it back before it did any real damage to anyone else." Tenten yelled, "You caused earthquakes, floods, volcanic eruptions, and a ton of headaches. That's real damage." As Naruto and Tenten started arguing, Naruto said, "I would kill you myself if I didn't want to be a young widow." None of them felt the ki that the Sandaime released, and then more, until he finally had enough and yelled, "Quite." The Sandaime said, "Kakashi, start from the beginning and explain what the hell went on," after he had captured their interest. "Well, after we left and showed up at the Xavier school, we spent a few days adjusting to the environment and getting fitted with a device that enabled Tenten and I to speak and understand other languages," Kakashi explained. "While we were there, a Naruto fangirl who was the president or head of the nation they lived in appeared with her daughter in a Sentinel. The X-Men almost destroyed it and her before she revealed that she was inside. When she came out and attempted to embrace and kiss Naruto, Tenten became agitated and told her bluntly to leave her man alone or..." Tenten went on to say, "I told that skank to leave him alone or I would use her bones as toothpicks after I carved her flesh from her skin." Naruto stated, "To put it succinctly, they were going to fight until I declared Tenten to be my fiancé. Copyright after one of my friends mentioned that we had to go get our wedding attire. When the girl heard this, she didn't think we were engaged, so she asked us about it and offered to accompany us shopping for our clothes. We had no other option because we couldn't take the chance of upsetting that girl because the peace that was established there began after I had first saved her life. So we took a plane to another country with Ms. Speedmouth, as I call her, and traveled to Paris, France." Kakashi stated. Two reporters, Peter Parker and Clark Kent, who were there to cover another story and were friends of the X-Men, ran into us when we went to eat. The girl, who was obsessed with Naruto, disclosed that he and Tenten were engaged in an attempt to show that it was a lie or a ruse. According to Naruto, Clark was with another reporter, Ms. Lane. She heard this and quickly called her editor, and in less than an hour it was worldwide news. Tenten explained, "So we were trapped in plans to get married and the skank started giving all kinds of wild and crazy ideas and made a few phone calls and she got Liberty Island, which is like a huge shrine with the Statue of Liberty, a national treasure in the United States, where the X-Men lived as the site for our wedding without ever asking us if she could even help." After dinner, Naruto said, "My mom and everyone else called me on my cell phone to ask what was going on with the news. Since Tenten never really objected, I broke down and formally proposed to her in the City of Love. Naturally, she accepted. So we spent the following few weeks preparing for both our own wedding and Mom's wedding. I kept my word to an old friend named Diamond, and fortunately, Susie's father had the Secret Service come get her by this time." The Sandaime remarked, "Diamond, I think I remember Xavier mentioning that person before." Naruto said, "Well, Diamond was a woman whose powers first appeared several hundred years ago. Her skin can turn into diamonds or back to flesh, but her organs are all made of diamonds, so she could never die of old age. She was married and had 2 children until one day one of her children were caught in a fire and she was forced to reveal her powers. Back then people believed in witchcraft and things like that, and so when the people saw this they thought she was a witch and they killed her husband and children in front of her while she was locked away in a cage before they tried to drown her in a river. Since she couldn't die, she had me make a promise that when I got older and decided to get married she would make the wedding dress and jewelry for my bride and our wedding rings if I would help her to return to her family. At the time I didn't know what she meant, but because of the special metal my skeleton and tendon powers are made from, it can cut even diamonds like it was paper. And according to the Sandaime, I can guess what happened. After a few minutes, everyone said, well, let's get back to what happened. During Rogue and Gambit's wedding, Rogue revealed to everyone a secret they had been keeping. She was actually 6 months pregnant. According to Kakashi, After that wedding we spent time preparing for these two wedding, and when we went to Liberty Island for the wedding it was a big event with a lot of powerful and influential people and reporters. Tenten explained. The group that Naruto originally captured to save the president's daughter had escaped prison along with some anti-mutant activists who got armed together and attacked our wedding. It was a one-sided fight because 60% of the guests were either mutants or superheroes, but someone shot rogue. The eyes of Sandaime widened and Kakashi said, when she was shot it hit her in the stomach and hit the baby inside her. Naruto, seeing her get shot, lost it and literally used his ability to control magnetism to pull the moon out of orbit toward us. If a superhero named Superman wouldn't have stopped the moon it would have destroyed the planet. Naruto replied, what? Nobody fucks with my family, especially my mama. Tenten continued, anyways, they had to do an emergency birth on the baby and he was born with Rogue's powers, which is to suck the powers or chakra out of a person, so I used my powers to transfer my chakra to the baby as well as cover his wounds and heal them using them like a second skin where he had been shot, and he absorbed some of my powers as well. There was a trial for those men who attacked our wedding after that. Naruto stated, after the world government discovered that I was the one who leveled Geonosis, I was placed on probation and required to complete a significant amount of community service, attend anger management classes, and pay for the harm I caused. According to the Sandaime, probation, why only probation? Kakashi said, because they used a machine to display his memories. All of them. As Naruto rubbed his head, the governments that supported Geonosis got into a lot of trouble for their assistance and support of that slave extermination program after the world realized how much pain and suffering he had to go through and how much he still wanted to live a peaceful life and help others. People saw firsthand the anguish and suffering that mutants went through, and they truly understood what they had to go through. A better system and new laws were created because it is now illegal to treat mutants cruelly because they are different from other people. According to the Sandaime, I see, so you are now husband and wife, I take it. Kakashi replied, yes they are also, sir. When Naruto years up both Tenten and I would like to resign, sir. With a scowl, the Sandaime asked, may I know why? With all due respect, Tenten stated, sir, we will never be genuinely happy here because the people are socially isolating Naruto, and when they discover that we are married, they also do the same to me. Just like my father, I have very few connections here. There are people there who welcome us and we have family there, sir. And the other world is striving for genuine peace among all people. Very well, the Sandaime said, I'll take it. Would you like to continue taking the Chunin exams? Naruto replied, yes, we wish to show the village what they are losing, so that way if others who are different appear they will learn from their mistakes. For what it's worth, I'm sorry, Naruto, the Sandaime said, nodding. In 2 days, the exams will start. I'll let Isarabi know that we should meet at your house tomorrow. Naruto replied, thanks Gigi, and we may stop by from time to time to say hi when we do leave. With a nod, the Sandaime said, well, go get some rest. Naruto slips them back to the mansion after they all nod. As Team Mutant or Team 7, depending on who you asked, stood outside the academy on the day of the Chunin exams, Naruto remarked, so it's in Iruka old room, the first exam. Yeah, that's room 301. Tenten replied before the three of them vanished in a cloud of smoke and resurfaced in the room, pushing a number of people away and shocking more. Naruto took her hand and put his other hand on Isarabi's shoulder. Naruto offered his hand to some of the people he knocked over, but most of them declined, so he said, sorry, with a sheepish smile. Team 7, you're supposed to use the door to enter a room, Kakashi said, sticking his head inside the room from outside the door after leaving the group. Ninjas don't use doors, Naruto declared, for civilians only. After giving it some thought, Kakashi said, true, good luck, and hurried off, dismissing a number of genin who believed they were being referred to as civilians. A few minutes later, Team 9 had Sasuke, Neji, and Lee, who was dressed like his former self, with sticks shoved up their asses, so to speak. Ino ran for Sasuke after hearing the shout, Sasuke-kun. He avoided her attempt to glomp him and kicked her in the ribs, causing the sound of bones breaking as Ino coughed up blood and collapsed to the ground. Shikamaru and Choji glared at Sasuke, who had a smug expression on his face, and they whispered to Ino for a few seconds before making their way to the door. Naruto snarled at this, and Tenten stopped him by placing her hand on his shoulder. According to Naruto, remind me to hurt him if I get the chance. Tenten responded, not if I get to him first. You should reel, said a silver-haired kid wearing glasses as he began to approach Team 9. Before he could say anything more, a group of Chunin and a man wearing a trench coat appeared and said, settle down you maggots. Uchiha, you get the hell out of here with your team. You violated the permission slip you signed, which stated that there could be no fighting prior to the start of the exams. Leave this place immediately. You can't do that, said Sasuke. She attacked me first, so it was self-defense. Does anyone agree with his statement? Ibiki asked, giving Sasuke a fierce look. Yes, Proctor-san, the kid with the silver hair said, although I don't know her exact motivations. The girl did act aggressively toward him, and it could have been interpreted as an attack. Very well, Ibiki said, glaring at the child with the silver hair. I'll take his response because he isn't on your team, but I'm putting you on warning. Uchiha, you will be eliminated from these tests if you continue to fight without the proctor's consent, whether it is in self-defense or not. To start, everyone must now locate their seats and draw a number. Finding himself in the room's front right corner, Naruto grinned as he read Ibiki's thoughts and said, Tenten, Isarabi, here are the answers. Number 1 inch. He then proceeded to give them the answers. In order to avoid making things too simple, the plants had only reached the first few questions when both girls wrote them down, which surprised Ibiki and the Chunin proctors. At the same time, Naruto placed his hands behind his head and grinned at Ibiki, who responded, What's the matter, afraid to answer any questions? Naruto replied, It has my name on it, that's all I will need. With a frown, Ibiki uttered, Oh, why is that? Naruto stated, We begin with 10 points, so I currently have a perfect score. I lose 1 point for writing just one response, and I lose 2 points for cheating. Why try or cheat when I can get all 10 points just by writing my name, even if I don't know the answer to the final question? That's your test's flaw, and you could make it mandatory to answer at least one question, but since I pointed out that flaw to you, you can't use the law to punish me because it was created to address a flaw I pointed out. Smart ass, Ibiki remarked. This kid and his 2 teammates finished before anyone else, so the new rule is that everyone else here who lacks intelligence must at least attempt to answer every question. Correct or incorrect, you can only pass if your paper is finished. A number of those considering using Naruto as an example scowled at him. A woman in extremely skimpy attire burst through the window as the first exam was coming to an end, saying, Don't relax. The second exam is about to start. I am Anko. And I am the second proctor you must arrive at training ground 44 within 20 minutes or else you will fail. Come with me. You're actually on time this time, Anko, Ibiki remarked. With a shrug, Anko leapt out of the window after chuckling. Naruto remarked, I wonder if she and Wolverine had a kid together, who it would take after. I don't think the universe could handle another her or him, Tenten uttered with a shudder. Come on, she said as she stood up and the 3 hurried off. Time, Anko said, glancing at a watch as they arrived at training ground 44. Whoever else shows up fails. Now, she said, describing the test that involved obtaining 2 scrolls and reaching the tower in less than 5 days. After 15 minutes, Naruto sighed and remarked, This is so boring. As they stood in front of gate 5, is this the actual path to becoming a ninja? I mean, I can get the scroll and reach the tower on my own in less than 10 minutes? Tenten replied, Yeah, but you got to realize not everyone has our advantages, so which team has the scroll we need? After giving it some thought, Naruto remarked, The team at the next gate has it. Isarabi replied, I still think that's freaky how you do that, but if it gets me away from the damn cat, I don't care. Yeah, Tenten said with a laugh, most genins have to chase it, but you have it chase you. Just as the team entered the forest, Naruto appeared in front of them at gate 4 after the alarm went off and the gates opened. He said, Sorry, and took the scroll from the first guy's weapon pouch before vanishing in a cloud of smoke. As they started to assist their teammate in getting back out of the gates, the guys asked their teammates, What the hell? A bubble of energy surrounded Tenten and Isarabi as they started to rise off the ground, and when they were above the trees where they could see the tower, it vanished and reappeared in front of the tower. And Naruto lowered them back to the ground. Naruto appeared just inside gate 5 as Tenten and Isarabi stood there inside the gate and said, Got it? This caused the proctor at the gate to widen his eyes. Just 10 minutes had elapsed since the test began when they entered the tower, and Iruka emerged as they were opening the scroll. What the hell, 10 minutes? How the hell did you do that? He exclaimed. Isarabi made both of her teammates laugh when she said, We're just that good. Well, you have 5 days to relax before the exams are over, Iruka said. Since you have a choice of rooms, pick one that the 3 of you can use while you wait. As he disappeared in a whirl of leaves, he said, Good luck. This is a huge disappointment, Tenten remarked. It almost makes me wish we were still avoiding Miss Motor's mouth. As the group headed off to find a room, Naruto said, Well, let's find us a room. A figure emerged from the ground and said, You are interesting, Naruto. After a few hours, the Sand Team and Team 7 arrived on the first day of the exam, and the next 5 days passed very slowly. The Kabuto team finally arrived on the last day, and the group of Genin stood in front of the Sandame, who remarked, It is a huge surprise that only 4 teams have made it this far. 6 games are equal to 4 teams of 3. Even though that might not seem like many matches, it is still too many because our VIP time is so valuable. I give you all the option to leave right now. If none of you choose to do so, please contact the first match proctor. If everyone looks at the board that is coming out of the wall, it will show us who you are facing. The first match is between Echo and Kabuto, said Chunin, who had a sickly appearance, as he walked to the front of the room. Please, everyone else, get off the arena floor. As she approached the balcony where the Junin senseis were, Tenten leaned over to give Naruto a cheek kiss and the words, "Good luck," before a blade swung out of Hayate's arm and slammed into Naruto, shocking everyone and sending an energy field across the arena floor. He looked down on the floor between the two members and said, "Let the first match of the semifinals end." As she leapt to the ground and attempted to reach Naruto, who was still motionless on the blade protruding from him, Tenten yelled, "Naruto!" The Sandaime yelled, "What are you doing, Hayate?" Tenten yelled, "Reload! What are you doing? Why did you attack Echo?" As Hayate straightened up, covered in smoke. "What is happening?" "Apocalypse, go now," Naruto said, turning to face Reload, who was now visible with the blade protruding through Naruto. The dimensional portals to this world are being closed off, and the Brotherhood and X-Men are already en route before it's too late. Act now. When Kabuto started to transform into Apocalypse, everyone was shocked and asked, "And why should I care if some insignificant ants like those Weakilings were to come?" "Because if I don't stop pulling the energy out of Echo here, then you will cease to exist," Reload grinned. "After all, you were born from a union between Echo here and another before you appeared in the ancient Egyptian desert. As a child you made your own father, and you will not exist if he passes away before you were born. Time travel paradox. Leave now or I'll kill you and him." When he touched a button on his arm, a portal appeared behind him. Apocalypse scowled as he eyed Naruto and said, "Very well, I do not believe your words, but I will investigate this myself." He walked backwards into the portal and said, "I will return," before it closed. When it did, Reload swiftly pulled the blade away from Naruto's chest, ran over, put his hand on it, and said, "Hold on bro, I'll heal you up in a moment." At that point, the color that had been fading came back as the wound in Naruto's chest started to mend. Baki responded, "Will someone please tell us what is going on here?" "That is what I am wondering. Who are you and where is Hayate?" The Sandaime scowled. "Hayate is in the hospital right now after I knocked him out and gave him a cure to heal his disease that plagued him," Reload stated. "Regarding who I am, think back to the infant about whom Echo and Cash told you the story when they got back from their wedding. I am that." As she continued to try to get through the barrier preventing her from reaching Naruto, Tenten asked, "Why did you attack Naruto and let Apocalypse leave?" The Sandaime, Tenten, and Kakashi all went wide-eyed. "You're supposed to assist in his murder, and you mentioned Naruto as his father." Pulling a CD out of his jacket, Reload sighed and said, "Give this to the professor, and it is the explanation about what is going on." He added, "If I hadn't just done what I did, Naruto would have killed Apocalypse today, and in doing so would have resulted in the deaths of several hundreds of billions of lives. I have used my abilities to take his, but I have also healed Echo. We are all doomed if I fail in my mission, which I have to finish now. Cash, look after him. He is worthy of happiness. Goodbye, brother." He got up, pressed a button, and a portal opened. He entered it and vanished, taking the barrier with him. Tenten ran to Naruto's side, and Kakashi also leapt down as Tenten held Naruto. Kakashi picked up the CD and thought, "Why is it things are never simple, sensei?" while glancing at the couple in front of him.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.